Welcome everyone. So we're joined today by the lovely Debra Sofia Magdalene. Pleased to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Finally to meet you.
Thank you for inviting me in.
No, it's our pleasure. And because I think this might be the first guest we've had where there's like a product involved. Yeah. So we've had guests on who have gifts or they do healing and all this. But this is probably the first where people are going to say, oh, what's this product? And I want to buy that product. Does it work? How do I do it? And then there's even more what we can share with people, because it's like, you can not only just help people with this product, you could become an agent and sell this product. And there's so many things what we need to talk about. But before we talk about the actual product, I think what we need to do is find out who Debra is. And let's get a little bit know about you, because we had a little chat off air before we started, and straight away I know you've already mentioned Peru and ayahuasca, and so and people have all these amazing, fantastic stories. And
this is becoming the ayahuasca show.
I know, but because they're amazing. And the thing is, like I said before, is people don't get to go on these amazing once in a lifetime holidays to these amazing places.
Yeah.
So all we can do until we do get the chance to do it, hopefully one day, is listen to other people's stories and find out as much as we can from it. So let's pick the story up. Where would you like to pick the story up, Debra? Where's an important part where we start?
Well, if I just start a little bit at the beginning, and I'll just give you a really potted history of my background in my life. So I went to school. I always felt like an outsider, like I didn't fit in. I hated school, every bit of it. I wasn't academically minded. So when I got shingles when I was 14, I was able to drop subjects because I'd missed 3 weeks off school. So I dropped history, geography and something else so I could do extra typing. And I absolutely loved typing, and I was good at typing, I was good at English. And I set my first goal when I was at school after being inspired by an article in the local newspaper, the Burnley Express, about a lady who'd set up her own secretarial business. And I thought I could do that. And so, when I left school, I thought, I'll go to college and I'll get some skills in being a secretary. And then I went to work as a secretary. And then when the timing was right, I'd met my partner. We'd got married. We'd had my first child, Christopher. And then I thought, now is the right time to set up my business. And so I set up my secretarial and office service business, when I was 27, and it was called Pendle SOS for secretarial and office services. And I used to get people ringing me up saying, I need help. The SOS was being sent like that. It worked really well. And I ran the business for 5 years, and in the meantime I had my daughter Emily within 17 months of having Christopher. And then my husband got ill. He was ill for 2 years with ME, and I knew I had to do something to help him and to change his emotional state. So at the time we were absolutely skint, didn't have any money whatsoever because, he didn't have like his income coming in. And I got a credit card and I bought us tickets to go and see Tony Robbins.
Oh, wow.
And my sister looked after the kids, and I took him down to Birmingham and we did the fire walk.
Oh,
and
nice.
on the first night of that seminar, he was cured of his 2-year illness.
Whoa.
And that taught me about the power of the mind.
Yeah.
So can I just ask, was you going back off what you just, was you only in your 30s when he had ME?
Yeah. No, yeah, he was.
Yeah. My partner's got ME.
Yeah.
That's quite that's quite, like, your life would have been turned upside down. That's quite a lot to take, isn't it?
It was, and he'd gone into this really deep depression. And we'd had this role reversal as well, which had affected our marriage because he became the homemaker, staying at home, looking after the children while I was working. And when that happens, I later did a lot more training with Tony Robbins when I did his Mastery University training. And I found myself going off to Palm Springs and doing his Date with Destiny course. And I learnt about masculine energy and feminine energy and how when the polarity shift, things in the relationship don't work the same. So instead of being like magnets that are attracting each other, you become the opposite polarity and you repel each other. Because I was very much in my masculine energy. He was very much in his feminine energy, and it didn't work.
Interesting.
I think I might be going through there at the moment.
Cut.
but I think my missus is repelled by me. So would that been like late 90s, early 2000s? We're talking that period there. When you started going.
It would have been 1993.
1993. Because Tony Robbins has been. People don't realise how long he's been
long
going
time.
as well. Isn't
Yeah.
But I've seen some of his back catalogue, if you like, of the Palm Springs and Date with Destiny, and it's only been in the last 12 months. I signed up and bought one of his courses last year. And it's been like fantastic from a business point of view. There's so much to learn, but he also does this thing where he helps people in relationships and all this.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. And that Date with Destiny program, not just. I mean, at the time, my husband and I had actually split up. So just backtracking a little bit, we split up when I was 44. He'd found another woman. And you know, and this happens in relationships, and you know, we always used to, every year without fail, we'd set our goals. We'd go down to the pub on New Year's Day with a notepad, and it's like, okay, let's look at the wheel of life, let's look at what our goals are for ourselves individually, but also as a couple, and what do we want to do as a family. And what's really interesting is the year that we split up is the year that we didn't do that.
Whoa.
It was really interesting.
There's a magic in that in itself, isn't
Can
there?
we just quickly go back then? So let's go back to then. So he's been diagnosed with this ME for 2 years, and then you've took yourself off to Birmingham on this course. So do you want to just talk us? What happened? And then how did he what miracles happened there?
Well, on the first night, you learn about emotional states. You learn a lot of NLP techniques like anchoring. So you go into a highly emotional state, positive state, and you anchor into your physiology. And what I anchored into my physiology was when I was 16 years old, I was the girls' judo champion of Burnley, and I was in the final. I was fighting against Kathleen, who was 2 years older than me. She was a lot bigger, a lot stronger than me. I'd never beat her before. But I went out there and stood on the stage. I thought, right, I'm going to have you. And I went out there with that winner's mindset. And we were fighting, and I got her into a ground hold, and I thought, right, that is it. You are staying there. And I won.
Wow.
And that feeling of elation was like incredible. So when Tony Robbins said, you know, what's your positive anchor? What time do you want to go back to? That was my feeling. And then you sort of do a repetitive move while you're in this highly emotional state. And mine is, and when I do that, it fires up all the neurology in my whole body. So anytime, if I'm doing any speaking, if I'm feeling that I need an energy boost, I just... And I can feel it now because it's wired into my nervous system.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
That sort of ties in as well. So that's on a positive thing. So we spoke to someone about like sort of the brain firing up neurons and getting rid of negative emotions, what are attached to past events.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the opposite of that, isn't it? So you've gone back to a positive event and used that as a tool to really get that feeling and that emotion going again. So that just goes to show how powerful the mind is. And you can collapse negative anchors, and you've got to be really careful when somebody is in a deeply negative emotional state that you're not setting anchors that you're not aware of. Because if you imagine somebody's at a funeral, right, they've just lost somebody really close to them, and people are going up and sympathising, patting them on the shoulder, right? Oh, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, you're embedding all that, aren't you?
Gets embedded into that nervous state. And so years later, you could be feeling on top of the world. Somebody comes up to you and goes, hiya, Deborah, how you doing?
Wow.
And it fires off that neurology.
The power, the magic of that holds.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So how the mind is connecting the two.
Yeah.
The two things together, creating your emotions.
Exactly.
And it changes lives in a positive or a negative.
Yeah. So that 2-day event, your partner come away from that.
It was a 3-day event.
3-day event.
Yeah, and we did like about relationships on there as well, and we realised that we had some really unhealthy patterns in our marriage, and one of them was the way we spoke to each other. People would listen and they'd think that we were having a full-blown argument, but we weren't.
Right.
That's just how we communicated, because we didn't know any better. It's just how we'd always communicated.
Yeah.
And we'd get into this pattern. And so on that seminar, we agreed that when we became conscious that we were going back into that negative way of communicating, which was very unhealthy, and it wasn't being, we weren't being good role models to our children, the way we were communicating, that we would have a trigger word that we would actually say, so that would bring us around, and then we go, oh gosh, we're back there again.
Yeah.
And so our trigger word was bananas.
Right.
And so if we were like, coming from work, had a bad day, and we go, oh, bananas, let's change it. And it would immediately diffuse the situation, bring us into conscious awareness, because a lot of the communication was unconscious. It was just a pattern that we'd got into.
Interesting.
And a lot of people in relationships probably never even go that deep, do they? And think they go through the motions. They probably even end up splitting up and falling up, never realising, do you know what, we could have worked on this, or we could have done, and that's not to say your relationship might, like you said, you're separated later on, but people never really do that work, do they?
No.
And because I always think, like in America, they're quite big on counselling and relationships, and whereas in the UK here, we don't
Stiff
really.
Upper lip in the
We don't really
Get
put
on
much
with it.
effort into it. We don't talk about our problems in this country by nature, do we? Really?
No.
So again, so after the 3-day event, could he physically tell there was a difference in his?
Oh yeah, he was like a completely different person.
Wow.
And he went back to work, and our relationship was transformed for a long time. But what happens is that I love the way that Jim Rohn explains about relationships. I used to do my ironing when I used to iron. I don't even bother now. But when I used to iron, I used to just take that time to listen to Jim Rohn and other personal development trainers, and that was my time, my learning time. And driving around, I love it, because that was my university. In my car, I'd just listen to cassettes when we had cassettes in the car, so we don't now, do we?
Yeah.
And that was my learning time, my growth time. But what happens is that if you've got two people in a relationship and one's growing and the other doesn't at the same rate, things change.
And feelings will change.
And you want different things out of life.
Out of life, yeah.
And it was, like he used to say to me, like, you don't spend any time with me, but his way of me spending time with him was sitting down, drinking a bottle of wine, watching a film on telly, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be active. I joined the Air Cadets because my son was in the Air Cadets. I became a civilian instructor because I wanted to bring that adventure and excitement into my life that was really missing.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I'd be going gliding and flying and going to RAF bases, to camps, and just having an amazing time.
Well, life is a journey and an adventure, isn't it? Why not enjoy it rather than being stagnant, watching Coronation Street or whatever? Which everyone to their own, but I prefer your path on that.
I can imagine it is difficult, because I bet a lot of people in relationships are like that, where one is wanting to do one thing, one's doing the other, and how do you find the balance there?
Very difficult.
Do you know what I mean? Because you can't make the other one want to do it either, can you?
Well, what I've learnt now is that that you can use Tony Robbins' model of the 6 human needs and apply it to your relationship once you know what your own needs are. Right. And I don't know if you're familiar with the 6 human needs, but we've all got the need for certainty, because we need to feel security, but we also need that uncertainty or, variety. And in a relationship, what can be missing is the variety, because you get into a rut and you're doing the same things all the time. We also have the need for feeling significant and the need for love.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to feel that we're making a difference. Yeah. And, we've also got the need to to develop. Because if we're not growing, it's like everything in the universe is either expanding or contracting.
Yeah.
So for me, personal growth is one of my highest values. And so you can apply that to a relationship. So when the last long-term relationship I had, that got into a rut, and we sat down and we looked at this consciously, and the bit that was missing was the variety. So I made a list of all the things that I would love to do, and he made a list of all the things that he would love to do, and we compared the lists, and there were a lot of the similar things on there, but there were other things as well. And so like every week we would choose something off the other person's list.
Right, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so you're actually doing that as a conscious act of love for that person, because you know that that's important for them to make them happy. And most of the things on our list didn't cost any money. You know, it was even better, like going for a picnic, you know.
But even little things like, because I mean, how often do people turn around to the partner and say,
if you're enjoying everything that we're doing here at Drake, Michigan, please subscribe, ring my bell, and let's enjoy this journey together.
You know, are you okay? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I think, you know, by nature, we tend to just probably take each other for granted, don't we? Or especially when kids come along as well, then you become the parents, and it's like, well, I've been to work, and now I've had my tea, and now I'm having a shower, and now I'm going to run and we'll watch a bit of telly, and before you know it, 10 years has passed.
Yeah.
And you know, and people are probably like, and also we tend to take a lot out on our partners, don't we? Like, as in, like, if you had a bad day or if you're in a bad mood, you take it out on the ones closest to you, the ones you love. But it's not very often people actually stop and say, are you all right? What would you like to do? What makes you happy? You know, and that kind of thing.
Or somebody is having a bad day, offer him a hug, you know.
Yeah, and well, that's another thing. It's a
physical
big thing.
Contact.
Intimacy is massive as well.
It is.
You know, because I think what happens is with lack of intimacy, it sort of, it drives people apart. Do you know? But the thing is, it's hard to be close to someone if you don't feel close. So
and in order to feel close, you've got to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
agreed.
So it's there's many faculties what make it work, but it's good how you can unwrap it. You know what I mean? And people could get their relationships and marriages back on track with a few, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've actually thought in the past, I've seen like these Tony Robbins, and I thought, God, people are spending all this money to work on the relationship. Well, you know, do they get anything out of it?
Absolutely.
Well, but you're an advocate now who sat down and say, look, I went on this course and there's a lot in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is the power of knowledge and the mind.
Yeah. But Jim Rohn says, you know, relationships are for either a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And so, like, my relationship with my husband, it was like a lifetime, because I met him when we were 16 and we split up when I was 44. So it's like we'd already had a lifetime together.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he left me for another woman. And because of the training that I'd done with Tony Robbins, I didn't go into the victim mode, and I didn't think, you know, poor me.
That's good.
What I did was I thought, okay, so this has happened. Do I want to fight for my relationship? Do I want to stay with him? And I was getting the answer, no, it's run its course. And you've got, you know, it's now time to go on separate paths. But the fear comes in. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, how am I going to manage financially? Yeah. We've got 2 children. We're living in a big house. The household income's going to halve. Yeah. You know, I need to buy him out in the divorce or whatever. So the household income is going to double because my mortgage is going to increase. And so you go into all that thought process. And the fear can come out. And so I thought, I need to find an empowering meaning to why he's leaving me. Yeah. Right? And it took me 2 days to come up with it. Do you know what it was?
Go on.
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
When I came up with this, I felt so empowered, and it was, he set me free, and I can now become the person that I'm destined to be.
Love it. That's brilliant.
So every time I thought of him leaving me for somebody else,
it's a bit positive.
I felt, wow, I can now become the person that I'm destined to be.
It's really good.
And I can imagine, looking back now, them words probably echo true, because you wouldn't ever have been able to probably do the stuff that you've gone on to do and meet the people you have.
And the journey and the trips.
Because ultimately as well, sometimes when we're confined in a relationship or a marriage, we can't do some of them things either, can we? I mean, you know, we can try, but it's like you've got sort of responsibilities, or you've got
to consider other people because you're in a relationship.
Yeah. But that's obviously for you to come up with that. That's empowering. But I can imagine looking back now, you were writing what you're thinking as well.
Well, you know, everything that we think, we're creating our reality with every thought that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Every thought is creating our reality. Definitely. So you have to become conscious of your thoughts.
So that's great, because instead of using what's happened to you as a victim thought process, then you've turned it into a powerful.
Yeah.
And then that has then projected forward positive thinking, positive thoughts.
Yeah, but what you don't do is you don't bypass the negative emotions. It's really important that you allow yourself to feel them, because you go through a grieving process. Even though I knew it was in our best interest to separate, it's like I was grieving, and I would go to bed at night and I would allow myself to cry, and, you know, I'd allow all that emotion to come out.
It's a process, isn't it, that, Deborah? Really?
Yeah, and what I found really cathartic was actually journaling.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd write down everything that I was thinking and feeling, and then I would like allow myself just to be in the moment. And then I found the secret to everything. And when I went into my heart, when I was feeling at my most painful, you know, self, I'd just go into my heart and just think about all the things I've got to be grateful for. And immediately I noticed that all those painful emotions just dissolved. And that's when I learnt about the power of gratitude.
What a message this is. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. What a message.
I didn't expect the talk to go this way, and now I'm just so... So before you went to the Tony Robbins thing, was that your first encounter of sort of... the power of the mind and emotions and frequencies or anything like that? Did you come out of that?
When would it have been? In the early 90s, I was introduced to the network marketing industry, a company called NSA, which was National Safety Associates, and we were selling water filters and air filters, and it was way ahead of its time. The market wasn't ready for those type of products back then. Yeah. But through that process of being involved in network marketing, that really exposed me to personal development, and it's the best training I could have had. Right. And then we got involved in another network called Entrepreneurs Unlimited, and that was in personal development. That was the product. And I did another one which was in consumer electronic products like alarms and personal alarms and things like this. And so network marketing has played a big role in my own development.
Amazing.
And really helped to develop my confidence and speaking ability, standing up, giving presentations and things like that. You know, and I've spoke at conventions in front of hundreds of people, up on stage about goal setting and things like that. So, you know, it's been a massive part, really, of my own development.
Amazing.
So did you go into things like empowerment coaching and all that kind of stuff as well, or
I trained as a coach. Actually, when I went to do Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny course, what happened was when Brian and I split up in I can't even remember what year it was now. I think it was 2004. I bought tickets for my two children to take them down to London to see Tony Robbins. They were 13 and 14 at the time, and I just thought that this is the best investment that I can give in my own children for their education, because I always wished that I'd had that knowledge when I was at school.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I feel passionate about personal development being on the curriculum, and so I took my children down. And, you know, it was really funny because, like, on the first night when you're doing the firewalk, my daughter was really into it, and I saw that my son was a little bit hesitant, and I said to him, "Are you going to do the firewalk, Chris?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to have to if she does it, aren't I?" Like the sibling rivalry coming in, you know. But, you know, the two of them now are amazing because, like, they've always taken personal responsibility and
That's such fantastic education to give your children.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And I knew before I went to that seminar that I would sign up to do his Mastery University programme, and I didn't have the money to do it, but I signed up for it anyway, and the course was like $4,500. And when I came back, I got a bank loan out and found myself in the December flying off to Palm Springs to do the Date with Destiny course.
Super.
And that was worth every penny of that $4,500, but the $4,500 had 2 other courses in it as well.
Can I just say, because do you know what, like, and this is for people who, because people, what happens is you watch a load of the free stuff if you like, and then you might sign up for the smaller courses, and then obviously they say to you, buy this bigger course, and then at some point you think, this is getting a bit too expensive, it's a scam and all that kind of stuff. And because like I said, I took the thing this time of paying a couple of thousand, and I thought, I'm going to do it this time. Yeah. You know, I've always thought, it's a scam, and I'm going to do it this time. And then obviously, when you do the one course, then they say, like yours, pay extra, you can have one-on-one with us, or go to Palm Springs. And what I'm trying to get at is people say, they say, look, you should find the money, or the universe will bring the money somehow to you, you know, if you really want to do it. And I think that's where probably the biggest amount of people drop off, and they never push through and do it.
Yeah, it's because they don't have that faith in themselves.
Exactly.
They don't trust.
But it's so nice now to hear somebody who said, I did take that leap of faith, even though the money was probably a little bit tight and everything else, and then you're saying it was worth every penny. But do you know what? We should get this over to Dona. What an advert, because you know what I mean. It proves to people, look, if you follow it through, it's worthwhile. Yeah. But sorry, so go back. So you went then to Palm Springs.
Yeah, I went to Palm Springs, did the Date with Destiny course, and I had so many light bulb moments there.
Did you?
So many. It was like, oh my God, it's like everything that's happened to me in my life, I know now why. Yeah. And what we did is we listed our current, it took us through a process of listing our current values, and then we looked at, are these values going to bring us towards our goals and what it is that we want to achieve? And mine weren't, because my top one was safety. So if my top one's safety, I'm never going to take any risks, am I? So I completely switched mine, and my top one now is freedom.
You love it.
Love it.
And love and trust, and you know what I mean? And so we consciously put the values down and in a hierarchical order that was going to pull us towards our goals, rather than the sabotage that had always happened all my life.
Amazing.
And then we installed those through a process. It was absolutely amazing.
When you pay a little bit more and you sort of go on the deeper course, if you like, the numbers come down, don't they? So did you get more like one-on-one attention with them?
No,
how many was
no.
there? Was there still hundreds?
Thousands?
Was that? because it's like, so like last year he did this Zoom one and there was over 100,000 people. And then obviously you sign up to the course and I think it comes down to several thousand. And then if you want the one-on-one time, I mean, I think it's like 10 or 20,000 pounds. And then there's still a group of you.
Yeah.
But the people have got to put the work in as well, haven't you?
You've got to do the work, but you know they get you working in teams, and you've got a buddy, and so you're well supported. It's got like a brilliant system set up, and I signed up to do his leadership training as well. You know, so I went off to Australia, to the Gold Coast, and did his senior leadership program, and I did one in San Diego. And I've done, other programs.
I love it. What a story.
Yeah, it has been amazing. But his energy isn't for everybody. And so some people feel repelled by his energy, and some people it really works for. I find myself now going more away from that energy and more to like a softer energy, more feminine energy. But it was a massive part of my development at the time.
Yeah, I believe it is full on. It's like 12, 16-hour days.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And he's a big man.
He's a powerful guy.
And he's quite blunt as well. He doesn't put up with any faff, if you like. When you watch his shows, he's very you need to face the fear, deal with it. Yeah. I can imagine him. He's all the current woke agenda. I can imagine him being very like, what is going on? But I find it amazing.
He's inspiring, isn't he?
Yeah. So you're an advocate that it was all worthwhile, worth the money. And...
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you've come away from, obviously you've gone to the Gold Coast and all that. So where does your life work wise? So have you took them lessons and experiences and thought, I'm going to turn this into work for myself now?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was doing the Tony Robbins stuff, I was running my own business, and then I went into the training industry. I was a training advisor. I was assessing MVQs. I got a whole lot of other skills in teaching and things like that. And then I went into the business support industry, and the organisation that I went to in 1988 when I was setting up Pendle SOS Secretarial Services, I then went to work as business support manager for that organisation. Right, okay. So I was helping other people to set up in business, and I was teaching on the startup programmes. And then I was promoted to executive director, so I was like in charge of the whole place, running the projects, and I designed a project called Are You Up For It?
Right.
For teenagers in high schools. And we run like big seminars at Turf Moor. I'd get the business community to be mentors on the programme. We'd work in teams, and they'd have to do business planning and come up with a business idea and then present it on stage to try and plant that seed that business can be an option when you leave school, and you don't have to automatically think of going to work for somebody else. Because that was my journey. Going back to the Burnley Express and seeing that woman who set up her own business, I knew the power of role models and things like this. So I set that programme up, and then we had a Women into Business programme to support women. Good. And I set up Burnley Business Club and Burnley Women into Business Network, and you know, and I was in my absolute element doing all that. And then, I went to a Tony Robbins event. In fact, I went to, which one was it? Life Mastery up in Scotland. Yeah. And that's when I sort of reevaluated my life. And the lead trainer on that course was a guy called Shaw Slocum, who had a massive impact on me. He was a very spiritual guy, very heart-centered, very different energy to Tony Robbins. And Life Mastery is all about your health and, you know, about bringing in what is it that you really want to do, what's your purpose. And I set some goals on there, and, you know, I set the goal to, you know, do NLP training. I think I'd already done my NLP training and my coach training. I'd already done those after doing the Date with Destiny course. But I made the decision to actually hand in my notice when I went back to work and to set up my own business.
Very good.
And I always remember Shaw, and he said, when you make that decision to truly live in your purpose, you've got to slam the doors behind you. There's no going back. You've got to burn your bridges.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because then the universe will create magic for the next step. All you need to do is make that decision, have faith, have trust. Yeah. And I thought, I just need to do it. I've got to stop letting this fear stop me from doing what I'm here to do. Yeah. And so I went back to work, and we had a board meeting 2 days later. And I'm sitting there, and I said, okay, guys, I've got an announcement to make. I said, I'm handing my notice in. I'm going to give you 9 months' notice. I'm going to work until the end of our project. I don't want to land you in the lurch in the middle of it. And then I'm going to set up my own coaching and training business. Right. And then it was like, oh my God, what have I done? And my heart was beating, you know, and I'm like, oh God, there's no going back now. I hope this stuff works.
It's brave and powerful. It is, isn't it? That's inspiring, like, it's inspiring, liberating. It's you're showing to others, look, taking that leap of faith. It's just,
well, the thing is that by this time I was divorced. And, you know, there was only my income coming in. And so to give up like a good income to set up on my own when I've got all those overheads and everything, it's like, oh shit, what have I done?
But you had this sort of inner calling. You need to, and I think you have to trust that, don't you? Yeah, you have to, because if that's your purpose or passion in life, You know what I mean? You have to chase it, don't you?
Otherwise, what's the point?
But I do find, and listen, we speak to people all the time, and the hardest thing they'll ever do is leave the job, leave the relationship, follow what they really want to do. People just tend to not do that.
They're in the comfort zone.
The fear gets the,
it's the fear that stops them.
But if you could say to people, listen, as soon as you do it, watch the miracles, what happens.
Yeah, the universe will make its way.
That's the thing where, like it's easy.
They have to be in the right mindset, though, and they need to know the tools for conscious creation.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's more to it than just doing that. They've got to be in the right emotional state. I'll go into that a little bit later on, because it's a much bigger topic.
Oh, it is 100%.
But yeah, but it is about having that faith and that trust, and not allowing the fear to stop you from moving forward. Yeah. So I did that, and then I did his wealth mastery program, and then I realised I needed to have multiple sources of income, and started to think about, how can I bring in more money? And I got home from that program, and I'm not kidding you. There was a leaflet on the door behind, the letterbox. And I picked it up, and it was from a charity called Child Action Northwest. And it said, "Do you have a spare room?" "Yeah." "Could you help homeless teenager?" "Yeah." "I'm a youth coach. We need people to offer supported lodgings."
Yeah.
And I thought I could do that. So I talked to my children and said, look, there's an opportunity here, for us to make a difference with people that really need help and support.
Yeah, give back as well.
And so for 5 years I offered supported lodgings to homeless teenagers, and had, one or two of them staying with me at any time. Superb. And that brought in money to pay the mortgage.
But changing lives as well.
And changing lives. And one of the
synchronicity events. It's
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the lads who was staying with me, he came down to the Tony Robbins event as well.
Oh, wow.
And he went from being this really timid, shy guy who had been bullied, and he won a scholarship whilst he was there to go to San Diego to do the Youth Leadership Summit. And so he got all his expenses paid. He went over to San Diego and came back, and he is just flying now. I couldn't believe the difference in him. And so to give teenagers those skills in independent living, how to budget, how to work for yourself, and to be loved and accepted.
And you look at the bigger thing there. I mean, the synchronicity events, like that person, that child has come into your life, and then you've opened the door to send him or show him this course or Tony Robbins, and that has sent his whole life in a completely different.
Kudos to you.
It's just unbelievable. It's amazing. It's like his life could have gone down a completely different path if it wasn't for. But maybe that's because his life was always meant to, go down the path what it has.
Yeah.
And like they said, you look back at whether it's divorce and all the rest of it, but you're like, but my life has took this now. I've been able to do all these amazing things. So you can look back and say it had to happen. It had to happen.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? It's not great when you're going through it.
Well, no, it can be very tough when you're in the middle of it, but you sometimes you can't reflect at that point. But the good thing about you was you were able to go, well, actually, this is a gift for me to be who you want to be.
And it's like we're creating everything in our world, the good and the bad, and you can't experience the highs without experiencing the lows.
Yeah,
it's impossible because of the duality.
Yeah, we need it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So when you're in your lowest, those are where the gifts are. Yeah. And it's about finding those gifts.
I agree.
It's like, why have I created this? Okay, so this is showing me a different aspect. And I remember a few years ago, my ex-husband died, sadly. He was diagnosed with a brain tumour, and he passed away within 6 months of diagnosis. And I was really grieving, because even though we weren't together, we still had that love.
Of course.
It's been such a huge part of my own life and my own awakening. And, so I was grieving, and I felt myself in this really low emotional state, but consciously I thought, I actually want to stay here for a while because it's been such a long time since I've connected with these emotions that you forget what it's like. And if you're going to help other people, you have to be able to connect at a really deep level.
Yeah.
With all emotions, it's not about, bypassing anything.
No.
It's about being able to empathise where people are.
Yeah.
And so I allowed myself to stay there for a while, and then I thought, okay, it's time now. You've reconnected with that. It's time now to move on, and to do something else.
You've got a fantastic mindset. How you've seen what you're going through and thought, well,
you become a conscious observer, a conscious observer of your thoughts, because we aren't our bodies.
No, exactly. That's right.
So how long have you known that for?
I think probably since the 90s.
Where you really suddenly become consciously aware
and
started realising, look.
About our reality and who you are, remembering who you are.
Yeah. And then, my daughter Emily gave birth to my first granddaughter Evie, whilst we still had the supported lodgings going on at home. And that was such a gift, to have this amazing, beautiful child in the house. And I just love her. She's almost 14. She'll be 14 next week.
Yeah.
And she's an amazing being.
Oh.
But her being in the house with some of these teenagers was very healing for them as well.
Yeah.
And for my own children, it gave them a perspective of how fortunate they were to have parents that were able to support them and to, have friendship groups. And they were a big part of the young people's development as well. And it wasn't all plain sailing, we had sort of a lot of ups and downs and things like that. But it's all part of the process.
Of course,
But then my 50th birthday was coming up, and I thought, all my life, I had a coaching session with somebody, and at the time I was giving myself to everybody else, and he said to me, Deborah, how far down on your own list do you come? I thought, oh gosh, nobody's ever asked me that before. And so I made a list of all the people that I was putting before me, and I was like number 8 on the list. And then I realised that I've got to start looking after me. And then I got that realisation about the importance of loving me, because we're brought up to think that it's selfish to put yourself above other people.
It's true that. Yeah. I went through that process last year, finding that self-love.
Yeah.
And changed my life, that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably think, the partner, kids, there's a whole list in there that comes before you actually think, well, what about me?
Yeah.
Well, the classic, you've got an ego, or you're say selfish or whatever, but it's not that.
No, because I think obviously when people realise when you put yourself at the top of the list, you actually end up helping more.
Of course you do. You've got more energy to do it, haven't you?
Yeah, and people are happier because you're happy.
Yeah.
And then you can, it's just it's like flipping it into.
Yeah, and it's like on the aeroplane where they say put your own oxygen mask on first, because you need to be able to look after yourself before you can help the people around you.
Yes.
And I realised that I was depleted. My energy had got really depleted with putting myself so low down on my list.
Yeah.
And so I made a really big life decision. And I told my children, and I gave them 6 months' notice to leave home. And I said, I'm going to sell the house and give everything away. So anything you want from the house, get your own places. You can have whatever furniture you want, take whatever you want, because I'm going travelling.
Right.
Wow.
Are you listening, kids?
I'm coming up to 50. Get ready. You've got a couple more years and then you're out.
Yeah. And I knew that everything was in flow because my next door neighbour had said to me, if ever you want to sell your house, please give me first refusal because I want to buy it.
Right.
And so I said to him, are you still interested in buying my house? He said, yeah. I said, because I'm selling it. And so we agreed a price. So I didn't even need to put it on the market.
Wow.
And I gave virtually everything away. And that was a huge process of letting go. It was unbelievable. The emotions.
Whoa.
Facing, I mean, obviously you would have seen that as an exciting thing, but that to
No.
other people, that fear of that.
I just had goosebumps when you were saying
that
that.
is like I take my hat off to you. I mean, that is amazing to to trust in the
whole
process or trust that. Look, I've got so much more I want to do or travel and see.
It's your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I even had birthday cards from being 1 year old. You know, I'd saved cards from like. And I used to look through my cards, and anybody who died, I'd keep them, and things like that because I then had something to remember them by. But like when you're sort of letting go of everything, I learnt the importance of non-attachment.
Yeah, and that's so important. The attachment is. I had a conversation with a podcast we did the other day. It was more Michigan Mouth. And we were talking about the reality we're in, and he was saying about the simulation and going back home and how to get back home. And the crux of it is don't get attached.
Yeah. But God, it was emotional.
Was it?
Because it brought up all these memories. And I remember, it was a process. And I honestly didn't know where to start because I had this 5-bedroom Victorian house, 3 stories.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where to start because I'd lived there for nearly 20 years and I'd accumulated so much stuff. And I realised that I'd become a prisoner to my possessions because initially I thought I'll downsize, but every house I went to see I couldn't imagine myself living there because it's like, where's all that stuff going to go?
Yeah.
And then I'd been running spiritual events for 10 years,
really?
Mastery Path events and holding those in Manchester every month. And that was a massive part of my own development. Yeah. And I was a radio host and I'd run Mind, Body, Spirit radio.
A few things about Deborah here. You never told me all this.
I never knew.
You just said to me, got a woman coming in today who does this wand. And I'm just sat here like...
I know, yeah.
I want to adopt Deborah.
So I'd gone through this whole process through the events that I'd run and the interviews that I'd done, and I had a chat with a lady in America and a lady in Australia who had done the same thing. They'd decluttered, given everything away so that they would live in like a nomadic lifestyle. And I phoned both of them up and said, what advice would you give me? Yeah. And they said, don't put anything in storage. Just get rid of everything.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because when you come back, you'll realise that you don't need it anyway.
That is true.
But it
did you take that advice?
I did.
And is it true?
Yeah.
So it's like you are freeing yourself there, aren't you, really? It's like getting rid of the clutter, it's like it is a trap. You create your own trap, don't you? Material trap.
You do.
What about the trap, if you like, I don't know if that's the right word, of like the emotions of like the children and everything, like, oh, mom's doing this or mom's... Was there any like, oh, I need you, you can't do that? No. Or was they happy for you to say, look, mom, we just want you to be happy?
Do you know what? Like, since my children were little, it's always been my philosophy that my job as a mum is to make my kids as independent as possible at an early age as possible. Yeah. And if anything was ever to happen to me, I know that they're self-sufficient and they can look after themselves. So when they started secondary school, I told them how to iron. I said, if you want any ironing doing now, this is how you do it. And so my son went all the way through secondary school without ironing a shirt, and he only started ironing when he was going out clubbing.
Are you listening, Jacob?
I'm just thinking, we could be offering some parenting classes.
I think we need to change direction on Michigan.
I think we could people could learn.
And another thing I did was make a list of all the jobs in the house and say, I can't do everything. Which ones do you choose to do? Those are your responsibility. And then, we'll share them out so that, we're all doing our bit. And then the other thing I taught them to do was how to cook so that If they didn't want what I was eating, they could make their own, but also they knew how to make their own meals.
Yeah.
And so those were the things that I taught them, really. And I don't have an attachment to my children. Yeah. I'm not one of these clinging mums and, wanting to keep them at home. For me, it's like flee the nest, go and live your life. Because I realised that all the time my children were living with me and they were taking the piss, quite frankly, right?
Well, they do, don't they?
They were.
Yeah, they do.
And I had no boundaries then. I didn't know about boundaries and how to apply them because I had very poor boundaries for me. So for me, giving them that notice to leave home was how they were going to, learn those things for themselves and to learn those lessons. Otherwise, they would never learn them if I'm there to pick up the pieces. It's
so interesting you're saying this, Deborah, because I had a conversation with my daughter. She's turning 17 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And she comes from a split situation. Her mum, we separated like 10, 11 years ago, 12 years ago now. And she said to me the other day, she said, "Are you frightened that I'm going to be going to university next year? I'm going to be leaving home and stuff like that." And she said to me, "It's dawned on her mum and her partner that I'm leaving, and her mum's been sending her like these lovely poems and stuff like that, and there's a bit of fear that she's growing up." And I said to her, "You know what, Maya? That's of course, I love you more than anything in the world." So, but the hardest thing about being a parent is you have this beautiful little girl with you that you fall in love with and you have to have with you for all these years, but you've got to let go. I have to let you go. I have to let you become your person, and go and have that adventure. It's Beautiful. Not for me to hold on to. You've got to go and do it, So I'm made up for her. She's a bit of fear for her that she's like, oh shit, I'm actually going to have to pick the crap off my floor and look after myself a little bit. But it'll do her the world of good, and she's ready for it as well. But you know what? Yeah, will I miss her? Of course I will. But I can't wait for her to see. She's already become this amazing young lady. I can't wait to see her flourish even more.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is. It's amazing, and it's difficult though as a parent. Because like my sister, sadly, is very poorly, and she has been since she was 16. But we were wrapped up in cotton wool growing up, so that's what I said to her to Maya. I said the alternative would be you'd end up quite similar to my sister. No, I don't want that. You need to go and live. So, well, there you go. Anyway,
so once you've made this big decision, and did you stick to the 6 months? And did they leave? And
they did.
You sold the house, and
they did. And I'd booked a ferry to France, so that was my deadline. Because the first thing I was going to do was a 2-month road trip around France. I'd actually booked to go to Damanhur. I don't know if you've heard of Damanhur. It's like a spiritual community living in the mountains north of Turin. Right, and they have these incredible underground temples which have been excavated over like 30 years. And they are works of art. Really? But the energy there is it's unbelievable. And so I'd booked to go there, and my partner at the time, Paul, came with me as well. So we did a 10-day trip to Damanhur, which was phenomenal. Yeah. Meditating in these underground temples with the gongs going.
Oh, cool.
They have like technology there, which is way off the scale. Yeah. They do time travel. And, really? Yeah. And they've got like technology that communicates, that you can hear the plants singing. And twice a year the plants do a concert because the plants teach each other. So I learnt about the consciousness of plants when I was there, and how, the plants can teach each other, and, the trees, and they have communities living in the trees. It's amazing.
That's beautiful.
That's like Celestine prophecy stuff.
It is. It is. And that was actually a book. The Celestine Prophecy, that was a book that changed my life. And
brilliant, isn't it?
I set the intention to go to Machu Picchu after reading that book. And I always remember I had a vision board in my bedroom when I had my house. And I had Machu Picchu, and I had like an amount of money in the bank, and I had, this, that and the other, and everything on that board came true. Everything. So anyway, I did this amazing 2-month road trip around France, and I was reading a book called The Labyrinth by Kate Moss at the time, and she writes about the Cathars and things like this, and so like I changed my name beforehand to Debra Sofia Magdalene, because I didn't want to take my old married name of Brown into a new chapter of my life. Yeah. And a friend of mine does numerology, using the numerology of Moses, and I'd been to visit her, and I set the intention for my name to come, and she said, just sit down at my computer and just type whatever comes to you into this software. So it was Deborah Love, Deborah Joy, Deborah Bliss, Deborah Hugs, and then Deborah Magdalene just popped out of nowhere. And anyway, I put like 20 names in there, and Deborah Magdalene, the energy of that was perfect. Yeah. It didn't feel complete, but I had Debra Magdalene, so I got a passport, I changed my name by deed poll, and then the Magdalene came in like 3 weeks later. The Sophia came in 3 weeks later. And so it's Sophia with an F. It didn't work with the PH because of the numerology of it. And so I needed a passport urgently, so I went down to the passport, to the post office to do the check thing, because I needed it back, and the guy behind the counter saying, but there's no change in your name. I said, yeah, I've got Sophia in there now. He said, yeah, but you're going to pay like nearly £100 to just put that on? I said, yeah. He said, but they won't know. Don't tell them. I mean, no, it's not the point. I said, like, when you change your name, you change the game that you're playing. Because everything is sound frequency. Everything has a frequency, sound vibration.
Yeah, of course.
So when you change your name, you change your game.
Oh, I love that. I don't know. How many messages are we getting here?
We should be live. This should be good. I mean, seriously, this is unbelievable.
Right, and so I changed my name again by deed poll.
Yeah.
And then went off travelling, and I was really connecting with the Magdalene energies. So, I went to Rennes Chateau, and, the Henry Lincoln, he's the author of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, right, which is the book that the Da Vinci Code was based on.
Right, okay.
That Dan Brown ripped off a lot of Henry Lincol's work.
Yeah. Right.
So we arrive in Rennes Chateau, pull the car up in the car park. I get out. There's a Burnley accent in the people getting into the car next to me. And it was like Bill Oddie, who owns Oddie's Bakeries, chain in Burnley. And then the next person I met was Henry Lincoln, who was sitting in the cafe at Rennes Chateau. And my friend had said to me, look out for Henry Lincoln, he sort of hangs out there. And so I just saw him, and I said, you must be Henry. He said, yeah, who are you? I said, I'm Debra Sofia Magdalene. He said, you better sit down. So we ended up sitting down, and he was sharing all his research with me and telling me the places to go, and he gave us a tour of the church there at Rennes Chateau, and he was showing us all the secrets. And
I'd love that.
And then he said, do you think you could give me a lift home, Deborah? I said, of course I can. Where do you live? And he said, I live in Rennes just down the road. I said, yeah. I said, we're looking for like a campsite. Do you know one? He said, oh yeah, there's one in Rennes. So, so we became friends, and I gave him a lift back there the next day. And
cool.
The whole journey was like just really synchronistic, because as I'm reading this book by Kate Moss, The Labyrinth, I'm visiting the places that she's talking about at the time that I was there, and it was like, this is mad.
What a journey.
This is madness. So like we went to like Carcassonne, which was amazing, and we went to like the Mary Magdalene sites, like the cave where she lived, Sambaum, and the cathedral, St Maxime's Cathedral, and I went to a lot of the Cathar sites, like the castles, Montsegur, and we climbed to the top of Mount, I think it's called Bugarash, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Paul really had to overcome his fear of heights because we were scrambling, at the top. And he said, I can't do that. I said, you can. And, look, it's just there. Just come and do it. And we got to the top and I couldn't believe it. It was like this vortex on the top. And all these insects were just swirling around this vortex. It was like bizarre. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it made a great documentary, that, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Your whole journey would make an incredible documentary.
Yeah. So anyway, I came back on the way back to the UK, I was driving, we'd got a ferry booked, and I was driving in the middle lane going only about 60 mile an hour, taking it really steady because we had plenty of time to get there. And then all of a sudden, the steering on the car just went and it started veering across the road. Oh, wow. And I thought, what's happening here? And I tried to correct it and the car went into a spin. And I thought, oh my God, we could die here. And I had no fear. And I just went, Angels Protection now. And Paul said, Angels Protection. And the car hit the central reservation, spun round and just came to an abrupt halt on the hard shoulder.
Oh, it's like goosebumps again.
And the airbags went off. And this lady who was, she'd been behind me for quite a section of the road, pulled up behind us. Yeah. And she said, are you okay? I went, yeah. I don't know what had just happened. But what was amazing, like she was called Florence, so it was like Florence Nightingale coming to the rescue, right? Oh. And we were right by a motorway exit. Just coming up to the slip road. Wow. So we called the emergency services who came to tow us to a garage. Yeah. And it turned out that the car had mechanical failure and it had simultaneously engaged 2 gears. How that is possible, I have no idea. But it was gearbox failure, which is what had caused it to jam. So the car was a write-off. The insurance company said I would have to take it back to the UK. I would have to pay for it to be taken back to the UK for them to assess whether or not they would cover it.
Oh my days.
So all part of the letting go process. Mm-hmm. So I gave it to the guy at the garage. Otherwise, I would have to pay to have it scrapped in France.
Yeah.
And had all the camping gear in the back of the car, boxed it all up and had it sent back by TNT. And I found out that, did you know that insurance companies get out of there paying for anything? You know what they're like, right? Did you know that mechanical failure in an accident is an exclusion?
Give over.
So
that's outrageous.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
They try and get out of anything, don't they?
Yeah.
What's the point in insurance?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was it was all part of the letting go process, which was a bit annoying because the guy who bought my house, my next door neighbour, was going to buy my car as well when I got back to the UK.
Oh, wow.
Because my plan was I was going to come back to the UK, get a visa and then go travelling in India by myself. But so that didn't happen. Yeah. So I got back to the UK and I was actually quite shaken up by what had happened.
Yeah.
And so I thought I just need to just be still for a while, because there's a reason behind this. And I was staying at my mum and dad's, and then it turned out that my dad had cancer, and he was my mum's carer. She had Alzheimer's, and she was partially sighted and crippled. And so I ended up living with my parents for 2 years in a caring role, whilst Dad was going through his cancer treatment, which was successful, and he's still going strong. He's 84.
Fantastic.
So in the meantime, I went on two shorter trips. I went to Guatemala in 2012 to help build the Rainbow Bridge, and we were talking earlier. Liam Brown was there, and other people. And I said to Paul, if we're going to go to Guatemala, like the retreat starts at such and such a day in December, shall we go to Mexico first? Because I looked on the map and I thought, we could do a tour through Mexico. So we did a three-week tour through Mexico, on public transport with a company that does like adventure trips, which was amazing. And we're visiting a lot of the Mayan sites and Chichen Itza and Tikal and, these amazing places. And then we arrived, that tour finished in the morning of the same day that the other one started. So the synchronicity that it dovetailed together in the same town at the same time is phenomenal as well. So we start this trip, with the people in Guatemala, and we go to this Mayan ceremonial center run by Lydia, who is from Argentina. I think she's a British woman actually who was living in Argentina, but then she'd become the custodian of this land called Paralij, which was an amazing high vibrational place. And so we'd done this visit there, and we were doing a crystal skull meditation, and they were passing around 2 or 3 crystal skulls, and we were holding them whilst we were meditating. And I was holding this black obsidian crystal skull, and I clearly got this message that I had to go back for the 2112 ceremony. And I was supposed to fly back to the UK on the 13th of December.
Right.
And I said to Paul, I said, I'm just warning you now, it doesn't look like I'm going to be going home, so you're going to have to go home by yourself unless you want to stay. I just wanted to give him some advanced warning. And he wasn't used to travelling, so it was a big deal for him, you know. So anyway, that's what I ended up doing. And so there was me, Liam Brown, and there was another guy, and Dominic, and we'd gone back to Lake Atitlan, which is an amazing place, and we'd gone to stay in San Marcos, which is this gorgeous village right on the edge of the lake. And it was funny because when I was in by the shore of Lake Atitlan, what was the place called? I've forgotten the place of it now. I was walking down the road, and I heard this voice behind me saying, "Does anyone know where you can get a free hug around here?" And I turned round, and it was my friend Jerry McMahon. And when I run my coaching and training business, it was called Global Hugs.
Oh, wow.
And Hugs was an acronym for Hunger for Unlimited Growth of Self. And my mission was all about sharing unconditional love through hugs. So we used to do free hug events and, for people, hugs on the streets and things like that. And so Jerry's there saying, "Do you know where you can get a free hug?" And I turned around and went, "Oh, bloody hell, you can't go anywhere without knowing somebody." And we went to have a coffee, and she said, "Deborah," she said, "you've got to go to San Marcos, and you've got to find the chocolate shaman, Keith." I mean, what, the chocolate shaman? Yeah. And she said, "Yeah." So, and the other thing that had happened was that I'd done reconnective healing with Eric Pearl down in London before I'd gone on my travels, and I'd set the intention to find someone to do the connection with, and I got to San Marcos, and I saw some signs, and there was somebody called Beatrice, a French lady, who was offering it, and so I went to see her for the second part of this thing. And then I went from her and to this cacao ceremony with Keith, the chocolate shaman, which was phenomenal. Yeah. And that showed me so many different things, about the power of cacao. Mm-hmm. And, and we did this ceremony, and I'd gone into my usual pattern of releasing and going into all the drama, right? And he said to me, "Deborah, are you ready to go to the next stage?"
Oh, here we go.
And I said, "Really? What's that?" He said, "You're ready to let go of the drama when you release." "What do you mean?" He said, "You can release through pleasure." I mean, "Really?" And that was revolutionary to me. It's like, oh my God. And so after that, it was like, wow, I didn't even know that was an option. So it was amazing. So I did 2 cacao ceremonies with Keith, which were incredible. You can see them on YouTube. If you just put in...
what's the chances? We talk about synchronicities, right? So we interviewed Liam Brown, last week?
Well, no, 2 weeks, because it went on last week. Yeah.
Right. Who told us all about this amazing journey. And obviously...
And he sent us some cacao.
Yeah, and he sent us some cacao. But you didn't know this,
I didn't know there was any connection between Deborah and Liam.
You didn't know Deborah knew Liam, and and it's when you tell Liam, we've had a lady in today, and obviously he's going to know you from, and it's just but what's the chances?
Well, you were obviously need to know about cacao now, aren't you? Now you've been sent some.
I brought you some, didn't I? I brought you a smoothie, raw cacao.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try. Yeah, I've got mine on the table. Yeah, we're going to try. And you just think so. So now you talk about. Obviously, when you listen to the universe, if you like, so now suddenly, within the space of a few weeks, we're being told the importance of cacao and your experiences. And
it's wonderful the way the path opens up. Because
what we've found, I mean, like in the last 4 months, say, since we started this platform, we've had, the list just keeps growing and growing. The people they're just coming out of nowhere, and people who are coming in and talking. But what we found was, like, people who we knew 15 years ago are coming back into our lives.
Yeah.
People are just like it's like the dots are all just joining back up, and you're like, what's going on here?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's just amazing to watch. I mean, from our point of view, like, we're just trying to get our head around it. I mean, so like, like one of the things I've said it'll happen when it's happened. Like, so I've still got unfinished business with the name Michigan. Mm-hmm. Like, I know there's a reason for it, and I know there's a big thing. But then we had a guest on, and he just went off and he said, "Oh, do you not know about Michigan and the importance of stuff? What happened in it?" And I was like, "Never heard of that. None of that in my life." And he was like, "Oh, and I'm like, what are you?" Because obviously from me, I mean, I had a spirit guide come through to me 15 years ago. Who was a US Marine, and he just told me, like, I needed to sort my life out, give me a load of messages. And then I come away from all the spiritual stuff. I was just
that's where Drake comes from, Benjamin Drake.
That's where Drake, Michigan comes from, because his name was Benjamin Drake.
Ah.
But when I went through this period, some synchronicities and phenomenon and what. Basically, Michigan kept coming up all the time. Like, literally, people would walk in front of me with the jumper on. People would walk past me and just mention it. I would turn my telly on and it would flick over and it would be talking about Michigan. It was too much. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out as well, this Benjamin Drake, who was the guide, his hometown was literally just up the road from... Anyway, I'll not bore you with it. But I still don't believe I've got to the bottom of the importance of it. But I know it's important, but I don't know why yet. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds.
It'd be interesting to look at the numerology of it as well, to see what energies it's actually bringing in.
That's a good point.
And the thing is as well, so like when I phoned up Critch, like, and said, because my life changed as well, because I decided to put me first for a change. I used to be one of these. I was very good at telling other people great advice, but never following it myself. Mm-hmm. So I never listened to the advice of my spirit guide, right? But what I did was I turned my back on all the spiritual stuff, and because I refused to do it from the platform I had, which was one of nothing, right? And I just felt like, how could I... tell people to come for a reading, a spiritual reading, and ask for money, or it just didn't work for me. It didn't resonate. It didn't feel right. So what I did was I said to the universe and God, and bearing in mind, up until the age of 29, I didn't believe in none of that kind of stuff. So my whole life had been flipped upside down, and I just made the decision to come away from it all. And I'd said, look, if you want me to do it and shout it from the rooftops, give me a platform. A different type of platform, I'll tell everybody. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you God's true, Jesus is true, it's all true, and all the rest of it. And then in 2015, 2016, I decided, because my life was just getting worse and it was just crap, I decided I was going to practice what I preach, what I told other people, and I started doing visualization, and I started doing manifestation, and the secret and the law of attraction. And I had a list, like you said, and I can look back now, and over a very short period of time of 12 months to 2 years, things started getting ticked off the list. My life started to change, but my mindset had changed. I'd gone from one of poverty thinking, poor me, everything's happened to me by everybody else, all that, and I turned it completely around to one of, I deserve everything, I'm abundant, so I always say this, I never had any mentors, I had to go through it on my own and just teach it myself. Mm-hmm. But my life changed, and miracles started to happen. And like you said, when you trust and you're in the flow, it's like the universe is opening doors for you.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, it's a feeling, isn't it? Yeah. And you're just like, like I was growing my business, and like one job might cancel, but a bigger job would come through. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, and because I've had businesses in the past and it was a struggle, but when I started this building company, what I had, the doors just kept opening, and I've never looked for work. It just flows. Everything just flows to me. So I sort of live my life now just in the flow of whatever will happen.
Perfect.
I don't have attachment.
Yeah.
Right. But and it's funny because I never really have either. So like I don't wear jewel. I know I've got a watch on there, but even that's been a recent present. I don't have attachment.
Yeah.
Or I don't have attachment to. It sounds bad, but I don't even have attachment to people. I have no attachment in life. So I just sort of live now, whatever.
What's your life?
I know, but it sounds like, oh God, you should. But it's just an inner feeling what I have. It's just like you don't need that.
You don't.
Do you know what I mean? And and for whatever reason, I couldn't. If I could bottle it, I wish I could. But everything just seems to be happening, and it just keeps getting better and better and more fantastic. And we say, laughing and joking, and we say by purpose, we have the best life ever. Because I know if we give out that vibration and that energy and that thought, we have the best life ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're just creators.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the miracles just keep happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got off track, which I need to do, and I'm sorry. So let's get back. So you're doing this cacao ceremony with Keith, and Liam Brown said Keith was an amazing person, didn't he? The best thing he said ever meeting him. So, did you and Liam get close on that thing, or was there too many of you? Or did you?
I think there were about 15 of us on
there was a few of you
on the thing.
Because this is his main thing now. So
yeah, I met Liam a couple of months ago. We were doing an event together called It's Mental, and I was there with the wand, and he was there with the cacao.
Oh, was you?
We were. Drake was.
Yeah, and so that's the first time I'd seen him for a long time. Right. So it was really nice to reconnect.
Because he's really got into the cacao, and it's really important to him. He believes it's going to be massive.
Yeah. It's very popular now in the UK. It is now, yeah.
I think so. What? I'm listening to your story, and I'm thinking I need to get out more. And then it's like I've only just heard about the cacao, and
but this is the part of the journey of what we're doing. The Drake thing is that we're educating ourselves. We're learning these things now, which expands our consciousness. But then people watching it will have their consciousness expanded.
Well, this is what, and we were talking in the kitchen before you come as well, and we're all playing different roles, haven't we? We've all got different cogs in the wheel, if you like.
Yeah.
So like I've openly said, like some of the events. Or some of the ways people live their life, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
that's not a problem, though.
But I have to be true to me. Do you know what I mean?
It's what resonates with you, and everybody's on a different path. And one of my favourite quotes, it's a Buddhist quote, and it's like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not ready to learn a piece of information. It's like, I remember when I was married, my husband Brian was really into David Icke, and he used to say, "See that table there? Yeah, that doesn't exist." What do you mean it doesn't exist? I said, that's just like empty space. Don't be stupid. Of course it exists. I can feel it. I can touch it. Do you know what I mean? And those concepts of like empty space and quantum physics I was not ready for that.
Yeah. I remember I went to a business meeting when I first started my own business, and we used to do these breakfast business meetings, and I remember I was sat next to this salesman guy, and I just got into this, and I remember saying, so there's a rock, but it's not solid. And he was like looking at me, you for real, you what? It's not solid, honestly, it's not solid.
And it's amazing, because I remember when we got into all like the spiritual stuff, and this is where because you're learning. So like when I first was schooled, you think things like, I don't know, psychic or mediumship, like you think that's important, if you like, until you realise, oh my God, there's so many other things. Like it's just never ending. And I remember a few of us going to this event, if you like. It was at the Inglewood Healing Centre at the time, and there was a fella there, and it was chocker. It was packed. And he was playing his music and all the rest of it. And he was talking about, look, none of you are really here. It's all... And I remember coming away from that, right? And like he was saying, like, we're basically in a white room of energy and all that. Anyway, I come away from that, and I remember Sean saying, he's off his bloody rocker, right? Yeah. Completely convinced, deluded.
Yeah.
But I had a little think, and I just thought, I'm not ready for it, but there's something in that. Just like Linda Scott, when she's talking, you think there's something in what they're saying that there's some truth in it.
Yeah.
Right? So like back then, and I'm going back 15 years, when people are talking about, oh, we're all one and all this, and I'd never even really got into like consciousness and and energy. I've never really learnt all that. I was still playing around with a pack of tarot cards and thinking I'm speaking to dead people. Whoa, this is amazing. Do you know what I mean? And then it's only when you expand and learn all this other stuff, you're just like, he was telling the truth back there. it's like,
yeah.
But anyway,
phenomenal, isn't it?
It's part of the journey.
It is part of the journey, and this is why there is never a truth, an absolute truth. There's only your truth.
Yeah,
and your truth changes as your consciousness expands and you become aware of other pieces of the puzzle.
And
it's a puzzle
because like it's like books, but certain books come into your life when you're ready for them, don't they? And it's like you could have seen the book, like the book The Secret. They say some people will see and just go, "Well, what a load of crap," and then a few years later, you're like, "I'm ready for this now," or And I mean, to be fair, I mean it's a bit Hollywoody, the book The Secret, but do you know what? That's a lot of people's first step.
It's a good starting point.
To
put something into it.
It is,
and that's what we always say about planting seeds. If you can just plant a little seed, what opens up and people then start going off on their journey.
I think what's good about The Secret is it made it the law of attraction more mainstream.
It did, It was important to put into consciousness, though, wasn't it? It's part of the awakening process. I think.
And I mean, it did overall fantastic. I think what happened then is a lot of people just thought they could sit at home, wish for amazing things, and it was just going to appear. Yeah. And I did that, by the way. And nothing happened. I lost everything. I literally thought it was going to save my businesses, and it doesn't. Then you have to learn. You've got to put action. You've got to put energy. You've got to head towards it, and that's when the doors open. Yeah. When you give, like, the universe or God or source or whatever when you say, "Look, I do trust you, and I'm going to go with it,"
I'm going to move into it.
The doors just open.
Yes.
It's a miracle. But listen, we keep going off track because it's so fascinating, isn't it? That's why. Yeah. But so you're in the cacao ceremonies. Is that in Peru where you did that?
No, Guatemala.
Guatemala, sorry.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened then? Did you stay for that, the 27th?
Yes, what happened was we went back to the ceremonial centre for this 2112 ceremony. It was a 3-day ceremony, and Lydia had left a note for me saying, "Dear Deborah, I've been called back to Argentina on urgent family business. Please will you organise all the arrangements and make sure that the locals pay. It'll be hard to get the money out of them, but don't let them get away with it. The Mayan priest will be arriving this evening. Could you sort food out?" So fortunately, I had Liam and Dominic, and we'd met these 2 Australian girls as well, who in the backpackers hostel in San Marcos, and they'd come with us. So the 5 of us just went down to the shop. We bought food in. We prepared the food. The priest arrived. We had food, and then it was a case of doing a ceremony to prepare the sacred fire for the 2112 ceremony. And this was like a 3-hour ceremony just to prepare the fire. And he'd put the other 4 representing the 4 corners, so they were sitting there, and I was not doing anything. I thought, I've not got a role in this. And then he's blessing everything and laying it, and then he said to me, "Come here." And so I went over, and then he gave me the honour of building the fire for the 2112 ceremony. So he's blessing everything. And then I had to lay everything in a particular way. And we'd attended 2 fire ceremonies previously with shamans, a female shaman and a male shaman. So I'd seen how they did it. But as I was doing it, I was getting flashbacks of past lives, of me doing this in past lives before. Cool. And it was such an honour, and so the 3-day event was amazing, just being in that energy. So, the 2112 ceremony, everything was brilliant. And then we had a ceremony the day after that, with just a few of us. And then when so it was all meant to be.
Yeah, believe it.
And so, we went back to Lake Atitlan. And then I thought, I need to figure out now how I'm going to get back to the UK. And when I looked at the flights, it was £2,000 to fly back from Guatemala to the UK. And I thought, there's no way I'm doing that. So the lady that I booked the Intrepid tour with, I contacted her and said, "What do you suggest?" And she said, "Well, if you can find a tourist location where there's lots of flights, it'll be a lot cheaper." Right. And Cancun was the cheapest. So what I did was I travelled overland using the collective transport and public transport back up to Cancun from Guatemala. And I stayed in San Cristobal for 3 days over Christmas. And Christmas Day, I remember doing a boat trip down this, what do you call it? Like a, canyon. And there were alligators, and it was amazing. So that was my Christmas day.
You had an adventure now, haven't you?
Yeah, and so I went back up to Cancun, spent a few days there, and then flew back to the UK from there. And then I also did a 19-day private guided tour of Egypt, because Egypt kept coming up for me.
Yeah.
And I felt I really need to go to Egypt.
Did you go to the pyramids?
So, yeah, not inside the pyramids, but we went to the pyramids and did a 4-day Nile cruise. Right. In fact, when I went to the pyramids, right, I had this really extraordinary experience when I came in contact with the Sphinx.
Oh, yeah.
And I just burst into tears, and so did Paul, who was travelling with me. The two of us just felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It was like really,
it's a place I've been wanting
really
to go
magical.
for a long time.
And again, like we don't know if there's any more to it. But so just lately, in the last couple of months, we've had this massive Egyptian connections, synchronicities coming into our lives again.
Yeah.
So like, in fact, I've just had a friend who's just come back, and he brought me back this statue of Ra.
Yeah.
At the top there for us. But then, so a gentleman got in touch out of absolutely nowhere, who was Egyptian, and he said, "Would you like to build me a £3 million apartment block on the Blackpool beachfront?" And so I've got men working there now as we speak, and it's just like, so we've got all these little things keep coming up, and then like, so we mentioned like in the name Drake, there's Ra,
yeah,
and we had a guest come on, and she said, "Have you never noticed, like, so my building company is called Atlantis."
Yeah.
And she said, "Why did you call it that?" And I went, "Oh, there was a silly name. It was actually behind like a fruit machine, like a slot." Anyway, but she said there'll be more reason to you than you realise. And she said, "Have you never noticed the factory opposite you is called Iris?" And I went, "No." And she went, "Yeah." And I was like, and she said, "And in the middle of this car park," she said, "I'll guarantee you should do like a ceremony." She said, "There's a portal in the middle of that car park." And like, obviously this is all like, what the, we're thinking.
He's got another business called Apollo.
I've got a business called Apollo, and then we've just opened this studio, and this is called Tartaria. Right. So we've got all these little connections, and you're just like, what's going on?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
go with the flow. And
then we're building lost empires, right? Wow. We lost, like, so we've got a land, and then I've said it before, so I don't want to bore people, but just so you know, so I had this, like, not past life regression, but I had this woman who we met, this unbelievable angel lady, and during that she turned around to me and she went, "You do know you was Genghis Khan in your former life, don't you?" And I was like, "What?" Right? Anyway, I don't want to bore because people have heard it before, but anyway, I would have thought it was a pile of rubbish what she was talking until she told me some other stuff. So if you've not heard that story, listen to one of the previous ones. It's just phenomenal. And then you start like, what is going on? And you have connections with like Indian tribes and everything, don't you?
Native American keeps coming up for me a lot.
And it's just, honestly, but you know all this kind of stuff, synchronicities, and there's something in it, and the power of the energy, and you know, and
I love it. It's great, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But this is your story, so I want to get back to it. So where when you went to Peru and the ayahuasca come in? Is that another story, or was that in the same period?
So what happened was, so I'd done whilst I was living with my parents in a caring capacity, I'd done a detox retreat in Spain in the May. I was doing like a juicing retreat, and whilst I was there was a guy beamed in from Skype from New Zealand, and he was doing a talk on the journey of the soul. Yeah. And he was talking about being in the Amazon rainforest and working with the sacred plant medicine. And whilst he was talking, all the hairs on my neck started to prick up, and I just had this knowing that I needed to go. And at the end of his talk, I just said, "I run events in Manchester. If ever you're in the UK, let me know and I'll organise an event for you if you're up for speaking." And he said, well, actually, I'm coming over to London in June. This is like May. He's coming over to London in June. So I said, okay, well, let's sort it out. So I organised 2 events for him in Manchester in June. In the meantime, I came back off the spiritual retreat, off the detox retreat, opened up my emails, and I had an email from Children of the Sun Foundation that I've been affiliated to for a while. And it was about this plant medicine retreat in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest. And the facilitators were Tiara Kamara, who's the founder of Children of the Sun. And I couldn't believe it. This guy who I'd been talking to on Skype, who was doing a talk on the journey of the soul, was one of the facilitators on this retreat. I thought, that's
you
mad.
must be thinking, what's going on here?
But then the same day, my sister phoned me up. She'd come back from Brazil, and she said, Deborah, she said, when I was in Brazil, there was a bracelet that I had to buy for you. It's a crystal bracelet. She said, I brought you and your other sister's crystal bracelets back. She said, but this one is for you. She said, so I went up to see her. She said, I'm going to put them on the table and see which one you're drawn to. So she puts these 4 crystal bracelets on the table, and I just went, oh, it's this one. What is it? And it was Amazonite. I just laughed. I thought, okay, I get the message. I'm going to Peru.
And was that the one that she knew? Was that the bracelet what she wanted to give you as well? And you picked it and everything?
Amazonite. I'd never heard of the crystal called Amazonite.
Oh my days! Do you know
So
what's
you see, when you get these synchronicities, you know, it's a sign that you're giving yourself.
Yeah, but you're acting on it. Most people don't trust that.
You've got to immediately. You've got to take immediate action.
And to be honest, and that's what Tony Robbins and everyone says. Like, if you have an idea or a thought, and you need to
crack on.
If you don't do it, somebody else will get that opportunity.
Oh my days!
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what? I find the fact that you act on the impulse, I find it so just unbelievable.
Well, again, it's inspiring, and it should inspire others, because everyone will get these messages.
I'm sat here inspired. I'm sat here thinking, when I get home, I need to tell the missus, you need to listen to this podcast. Deborah's amazing.
Oh, bless you.
Because I tell you what as well, Deborah, and without offending anyone else, you have an aura about you, or an energy. It feels wrong to say, but normal. Right.
I am normal.
Do you know what I mean? No, do you know, like you get some people and
what, you mean like a spiritual guru type of?
No, do you know what? Deborah's relatable.
Yeah.
Like your everyday person on the street who's not giving you a load of waffle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some people wrap it up and it's all.
So it's not show, you mean?
Yeah, there's a bit. Whereas, like, to be fair, like I said, you Deborah could go out of here and have a job as a teacher or and basically your everyday person, and that's one thing I've been asking for as well. Actually, by the way, I said, because I've said to you, Enter, why does everybody seem to be a certain genre of person?
Yeah, like it is a show, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, how come you never meet like a consultant or a doctor or an MP who's like, got all these. It always seems to be people who are like struggling or they've decided they're fighting against the system.
Yeah.
And I said, but there's more than one string to a spirituality bow, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's everybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I find it quite refreshing that you're sat here today.
But you asked for it.
I did ask for that.
You manifested me.
Because the thing is, like me, I go away from here and I'm running several different companies. But I have a massive passion with the spiritual side.
Yeah.
I have a thirst of knowledge, but I also have my business side, and and
you're trying to balance it all.
I'm trying to get the balance right. Because listen, you're more likely to see me in a hotel room having breakfast and being pampered than you are in a campsite, and it's just me. Now, I'm at the moment. I'm not saying I might not change. No. You don't know what's around the corner. It's just me.
Yeah.
And I have to be true to me, don't I? This is what I said.
Don't fight
But you can have it all.
Well,
that's exactly true. Yeah.
You can have it all.
Mm.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, that you can choose what your joy is.
Yeah.
What brings you the most joy. And, for me, it's being in nature.
Yeah.
But I also like a bit of luxury now and again. But I also like camping. But then I also like, let's have a nice hotel room. Do you know what I mean? So you can have it all.
But this is where you define success for me. Success is just being happy, isn't it?
But also, it's also like, when we've met people and they've said, like, when you're talking to someone, apparently it's like a mirror.
Yeah.
And we're talking to but you even sat there just saying that you can have it all. That resonates with me. That gives me the goosebumps because it's almost like consciousness or something is saying to me, Kev, you're asking the question and here's your answer.
Yeah.
You can have it all.
And why shouldn't you?
And why shouldn't
you deserve it.
And
exactly.
Because,
you deserve it.
Like what's it called? One of the things we did on the Drake Michigan, and it winds my missus up mad. Like, so we do a lot of like skits, taking them fun and that, because I just like laughter.
Yeah.
I like taking the piss, really. You know what I mean?
But you enjoy having fun as well.
But I have to be true to me, my personality, because it's part of me.
Yeah.
And I know it's not for everybody. People are not into, like, I don't know, sexual innuendos, or they might not be into taking the mick out of less for. No, listen, I don't mean any harm. But it's my personality, it's my nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the type of person who'd laugh at a funeral kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't help it. It's just...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think we have to be true to ourselves, don't we?
We do.
That's the message.
Yeah.
Just be true to yourself.
You can have it all. But anyway, we're digressing again.
So what happened was when so I applied for this retreat in the Amazon rainforest, and it was by interview. You had to fill in a questionnaire, and it was really carefully selected to make sure that you were going for the right purposes, that you weren't going to bring disruptive energies and things like that. You had a Zoom interview, and then I got accepted onto it, and I thought, well, if I'm going to Peru, I'm going to Machu Picchu as well. There's no way I'm going to Peru and not going there. And I thought, there's no point me buying a return ticket, because after what happened in Guatemala, I probably won't use it anyway. So, and I also realised that living with my parents, it had become codependency, and I was doing too much for them, which was disempowering them. And also, we were both ready for our own space, and Dad had recovered from his cancer, thankfully. So I think it was in September 2013, I went to Peru with my backpack on this big adventure, and spent 17 days in the Amazon rainforest, really deep in the Amazon rainforest.
So good.
Away from
people don't do this
civilization.
This is amazing.
There was no running water, no electricity. We'd bathe in the Amazon every day.
Amazing.
Just living in harmony with nature. My biggest fear was the mosquitoes, because they eat me alive.
Right.
And so that was my biggest fear.
At least they're not the Bill Gates mosquitoes. Apparently they're pretty bad.
I won't go there. And so, I'd gone there, and we were doing plant medicines, and we would go on jungle walks. We would collect the chacruna leaves. We would collect the vine, the ayahuasca vine. We would prepare them all together in the temple. The medicine man would brew them up into these huge pot, and we would like pray over them and bless them and set our intentions.
Where does your level of trust come from, Deborah, in these people? Like, I mean, I know it's mentally, like, like when there's like your certain areas, you're like, oh, I'm not going there, it's dangerous. But I mean, you're talking about getting on a plane and whatever, and travelling to the other side of the world. And
I couldn't even lift my backpack up because it was full of school supplies for the children in the rainforest.
Wow. Bless you.
That's another funny story.
Bless you.
I'm just amazing.
I love it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what's the goal? So carry on.
And so we would do these walks, and then it was our time for our first ceremony, and we had to do like a really strict dieter before we went to the Amazon. So I was doing like a fast for about 3 months before we went.
3 months?
Sugar-free, alcohol-free, really like plant-based diet.
Yeah.
I was like super healthy, on a really high vibration.
Yeah.
Like when we were in the Amazon, we couldn't have any salt, no spices. I mean, you had a very bland diet because you were preparing your body, your temple, for receiving the sacred plant medicines. Yeah. And so I remember our first ceremony. We set our intentions, and Shipibo tribe that we were staying with. You know, we had the shaman, there was a plant medicine man, there was Kavi, who was one of the grandmothers of the village, and she would come in and she'd sing Ikaros, and it was beautiful, you know. And the Ikaros are sacred prayers of protection. And then, like, we drink this ayahuasca brew, and oh my God, it was foul.
I've heard that.
Oh my God, it was the worst taste ever. And after a while, you start to go into an altered state of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Now, unlike psychedelics, it's not a hallucinogen, it's an ethnogen,
right?
Which gives you a super conscious experience.
Okay.
So it allows you to transverse the veils of reality and see things that you wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
So I could see sacred geometry. I could see, you know, how every thought I had created geometry.
Whoa.
And I could see how I was shown many, many different things. So at the beginning of each ceremony, you set your intention. What do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
And I wanted to experience death and what death was like.
Oh, right, okay.
And I was shown, like, you know, like just being at one in this love, this beautiful unconditional love, which was quite overwhelming. Oh gosh, yeah. And I just merged with the universe and with consciousness, and I could have just stayed there, to be honest.
This sounds like the best ayahuasca trip that I've heard, because we've heard a few like rough stories and purging and stuff like that, but this sounds incredible.
I'm going to go on record now. This is the most, and we've had some amazing podcasts. Yeah. This is the best podcast I've ever had.
Really?
There's such a great...
I just feel so amazed in your company. Honestly, it is just absolutely wonderful.
Bless you.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Honestly,
I just like to share from the heart, you know, because it's like...
And you can feel that, though. You can
Well, you can, but your story's so inspiring.
I'm just so...
It really is inspiring.
What you've done, and you've gone on that passion and that impulse and your experiences and your trust, and I know every word that you're saying, you know, it's believable. There's no, it's not wrapped up. And when you're describing stuff now, that's what we want. We want people, with the audience, to know and hear this, and I want to hear it as well.
And what a book you've got.
And again, and you've mentioned this a few times in the podcast, to ask on that ayahuasca, to say, I want to experience death. I mean, you're asking all the right things. You're asking the big questions. You're not shying away from nothing.
Yeah.
That's true.
You're not shying away from divorce. You're not shying away from leaving your children. You're not shying away from the ultimate question what people ask is death. And
you trust your journey, don't you, completely?
Yeah.
You really are.
I really have learnt to live in that trust. But it's about trusting, like, trust is about trusting yourself, not anybody else. It's about trusting you.
Tell us more about this trip.
So while you're on this ayahuasca, you're seeing geometric shapes, you're feeling at oneness with the universe.
Yeah, I mean, we did 5 ceremonies. You know, in the time that we were there, we'd do a ceremony, then we'd have a rest day and, you know, reflection day, and I wanted to. I wanted to be open to receiving information that I was ready to receive. And one of the most profound experiences that I had was actually doing an ancestral healing, which was just incredible. And what happened was that everybody was lying down, everybody was really quiet. And all of a sudden I just knew I had to stand up. And I stood up. And I started, like, seeing, like, a timeline in front of me and behind me. And I started blessing the timeline, and I started blessing my ancestors and thanking them for everything that they'd done for me to be here.
Powerful.
But also clearing all the stuff that we have in our DNA that's passed on. so that it stops here and we don't pass it forward.
Yeah.
As I was doing this, I could feel myself surrounded by angels. Wow. And then the shaman got up and came and stood next to me. The other facilitators came and all formed a semicircle around me. They were blessing me with agua de Florida, and I was just doing this ceremony, and I felt myself in my light body, and my whole body was like tingling. It's like being an electric being, and I just like, and the power of the breath came through, and it's, and feeling that energy. I can feel it now.
Yeah,
I can really feel it, because like, I remember doing this, and we're just like seeing just blessing everybody and the love.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, and it's the most profound experience that I've had, honestly. And it's one of the most powerful things that we can do for our family and for humanity, clearing this ancestral line and blessing.
I love it.
You know, and the next day, I said to the shaman, how did you know to come and support me at that moment in time? And he said, when everybody's in ceremony, when everybody's going through their own process, he said, it's like I'm looking at a row of television monitors and I can see everybody's experiences.
Whoa.
And that blew me away. Blew me away.
Wow.
But after my, I said about my greatest fear was the mosquitoes. After my first ceremony, everybody had gone to bed, and there was me and two guys left, and I was still journeying on the medicine, and I didn't want to go to bed. I was like really super curious, and I started to explore texture and sound and vibration. And what I did was I shapeshifted into a mosquito, and I changed my frequency to a mosquito, and this mosquito came and landed on my hand, and I gave it permission to feed from my blood.
Right.
And it's like me and the mosquito had this moment where we were one. Right? And I could feel it's like sucker going down into my blood, and I could see it all coming up. And then after a while I said, okay, that's enough now. Off you go. And off it went. And I had a really big healing with the mosquito kingdom. And this opened up like a whole new world for me, and this feeling of oneness with the insect kingdom that I'd never really connected with before. And then I started to do sound. And during the ceremony, Tiara had come over and she was using the koshi chimes. I don't know if you've ever experienced them, but oh my God, they are beautiful. And the koshi chimes, they sell them like in music shops. They're to different frequencies. Is air. It's like the four elements.
Right.
And like, so I toned, it's like, ooh, for the mosquito, but for the butterfly, it was, and then this butterfly just appeared and landed on me.
No.
And talking about, like, we're talking about in the middle of the night, right? And this butterfly just appears on me. And then I started to do this healing for the divine feminine with this butterfly on me all the time. And I was really into the 5 Tibetan rites then. And I did the 5 Tibetan rites with this butterfly on my sacral chakra the whole time. It never left me. And then we finished, and the butterfly crawled from here right up onto my face and gave me the most exquisite butterfly kiss. And I was in raptures. It was like...
Amazing.
And these two guys are looking, and one of them, he was called Akasha then, he's now Sananda, and he he has the ability to see everything, and he's like decoding everything that's going on for Skip, who was there, who was really pissed off because he'd fallen asleep in his ayahuasca ceremony and didn't experience anything, which was a big lesson for him.
You'd be gutted.
But that's what he needed. And so, like, I just had this experience with this butterfly, and it was just the most phenomenal thing. And then Akasha came over, and I said to the butterfly, you know, he was holding his hand out, and I said, it's okay, go to him, it's safe. You're safe. And so he went to him, and then he sort of held it for a while. But what was really interesting is after that, when we were doing the jungle walks, the butterflies would come and land on me. And so the shaman called me the butterfly lady, you know. It was incredible.
What an experience. Yeah. What an experience you had.
It was such a blessing. But I also learned, like, one of the missing things that they don't teach you in the law of attraction, and this is what I want to really share with you listeners.
Whoa, bring it out. Buckle up, get comfy.
Get ready. Right. So one of the missing keys is that when you're wanting to manifest, right, you've got to set your intention, but let go of the attachment to having it. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be in the right frequency, the right vibration to attract that. So you've got to keep your vibration high, but you also have to have the emotional stability. So do you know, like before we were talking about you can't have the highs without the lows. Yeah. The problem with the law of attraction is that if you are wanting to manifest, so you know what it is you want and you're focusing on it, everything's good when you're on a high, but as soon as you have a low, it wipes out the blueprint that you're creating on the astral plane, because everything has a gestation period, right? And this is why you don't manifest immediately, you know, certain things, otherwise it'd be too much. So when you're on a low, you're wiping out that blueprint. So if you can walk in the middle ground without experiencing the extremes, you can then bring in what you need. So
a bit more of a plateau kind of.
So rather than having the highs and the lows, you're going on in the middle ground. So you can still experience the joy, but it's about being in that state of grace.
That trusting will allow you to be in that plateau, would it not?
Yeah, because you expect it. Them failed, didn't they? As in, like they when they first come into it as well, especially, they're dead excited. And a lot of people think, I can feel it, I'm going to win the lottery, and then it's like, then they have that low.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, well, a month's gone by and I've not won it yet. And it's like, and that's the other thing. I mean, look, some people are very good at manifesting very quickly. Other people, it takes time. It's a blockage, isn't it? And all of it. So, and it's learning how to.
But if you expect that's going to come into your life, you're going to be more on that level, aren't you? Because you're releasing the excitement too much, and you're not going to hit the low. You're just going, I've made my order now, crack on, and it's coming when it's coming.
I tend to feel, this is like, what's called, I don't think I've ever said this. So like, I have this inner feeling, like the God, let's call him God or universe or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, I have this thing that I know he could do anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. And I just know it.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, and then that pees me off as well, by the way, because I'm like, I know if you wanted to, you could make an email come through with a £10 million contract for a new work, and that, like I said to you before, like things have appeared in front of me like that because I know the universe and that can make it happen that quick.
Yeah,
sure.
So then when it doesn't happen, it's like, whoa, but what's my path then? Am I allowed to have it? Am I not allowed to have it? But deep down, I know the power of it.
Yeah.
I know the power of Source, the power of God, and it can happen like that.
It can.
And I just find it amazing like that. So,
but removing that frustration of it's not there is going to be kind of key, isn't it?
I mean, it's like I said about like with that day with the combi boiler.
I know, yeah.
It's like it's only a silly little story, and I suppose it's like you said, until it actually happens to you, it's hard to explain the emotions and the feelings to other people. But we had a brand new boiler, and there was nothing wrong with it. And a couple of months back, we went through some bad weather, and one day it had basically decided not to fire up or something. And anyway, within an hour or two, then it fired up as the weather must have raised. Anyway, but the day after, it was just off for hours, and it was so frustrating. I'd tried absolutely everything for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I never even come into work because I thought, I'm playing here, and I thought I'm going to have to phone someone and all the rest of it. Anyway, I don't know why, but what I did, I put my hands on either side of the boiler, and I just said, Archangel Michael, and I know you can fix this right now if you wanted to, right? I know you can, right? And I shit you not, it went, and it just all fired up, right? The whole thing fired up, and the temperature started filing up from minus whatever it was up until 70, 80 degrees. The hot water was running, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I run downstairs to you, didn't I? And I phoned him up and I went, Critch, not going to believe this. I know it's hard to tell, but and he went, like at first you think, is it just coincidence? I said, it never happened for hours, and it just happened when I said it happened. Anyway, about an hour or two later, right, I think I had a shower and everything else, and then it just all shut back down again, right? And then for the rest of the day, it wouldn't come back on for absolutely nothing. Right? So then you're like, so you're telling me just on this one occasion when I said, I know you can fucking make this fire up if you wanted to, and it was just like, what is happening?
Well, the thing is that the angelic realm can only help when we ask for it because we've got free will.
That's right, yeah.
And that's right. Amazing as well, because we've just done a little clip what will go out over the next couple of days. And in it, I talk about how people can spend their whole life thinking, oh, why is this happening to me, or blah, blah, blah. Even people who are successful, they don't even understand why they're successful. You know what I mean? It's just their mindset, what they're in. And I said, but have you ever stopped and asked? Because have you seen the miracles, what happen once you ask and allow the angels and the universe and God into your life? Because not many people do they? They want it, or like they go, oh, come on, but they never actually stop and ask and say, I give you permission to come into my life to help me, to support me, and I trust you. It's massive.
It is.
Yeah. It's great.
It is massive.
What a universe.
Oh, great.
It's amazing.
And we're just like scratching the eye, you know what I mean?
I know. So that's some ayahuasca trip, that. I mean, like I said, we've heard purges. Did you not purge then? Was it just
for my first 3 ceremonies, I didn't. On the final 2, I did.
Right.
And actually, you'd think that it was an awful experience, but it was so cleansing.
Was it?
So cleansing.
Right.
It really was. And it's like, it wasn't unpleasant.
Yeah.
And is it something you feel like you want? Because we was talking to someone, and some people do it all the time, like they get like addicted to it. Is it something that you feel like you want to do again, or is it a once in a lifetime experience?
For me, I don't feel the need to do it anymore, because it gave me the knowing that I'm a creator and that I can create anything I want.
Love it.
And I do see people on this plant medicine journey, and I see them giving all the power to the medicine.
Right.
And it is like an addiction.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so no, for me, I don't feel the need for it anymore. But what it gave me, I think it supercharged my experiences. It shortcutted a lot of time for me because it helped me to build neural pathways to be able to get back into those states again without needing the medicine. Because you don't need the medicine for these things, and this, we don't want anything that's outside of us. We can create these in different ways, and medicine isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. It's not everybody's path.
No.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend it to, you got to go and do this.
See, I have no calling for it, and I have this thing where I can get to these states within.
Yeah, you can do it through meditation, through breath work, through ecstatic dance. There's many ways of doing it.
Yeah. But I can understand how people do feel drawn to it.
Yeah.
And also as well, a lot of people, it actually sends them on a whole new path of life, doesn't it? Once they've, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people are looking for something. We've had some guests come on, and like Monica and things like, and they like, their life was sort of turned upside down, whether that was with COVID and everything, and then they found themselves at a ceremony and taking it, and it basically just sent the whole life on a
new journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that was needed for them, wasn't it?
It's really good at helping you to see the shadow side as well and unconscious patterns. But one of the things that I wanted to do was to recognise my unconscious behaviours, because unless they're conscious, you can't do anything about them.
Right, okay.
Right. And what I remember on one of the ceremonies, you know, at one stage we're going round and I was like really like feeling the music and the beat, and I was going round and sending love to people, and I was actually pulled up by Tiara, and she said, Deborah, stay in your own process, don't interfere with anybody else's process. And I realised that was one of my patterns in wanting to give to other people, but giving when I hadn't got permission to give.
Right.
Ah, interesting.
Right, because that was one of my patterns in being a rescuer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So now I don't do the rescue.
Yeah.
People have got their own lessons to learn, and you only send healing or things like that if people want to receive it. Now, if somebody is in a coma or something like that and they can't make that decision, well, obviously, you know, and you want to send them positive intentions and things like that. But, you know, it's about being very aware of energy and how your energy interacts with other people's energy as well.
And this is another thing what we've talked about lately as well, because not everybody wants to heal themselves.
No,
some
they're not ready.
Like being the victim. Some people,
because they've got secondary gain. That's why.
Yes. People do like living in the trauma and the story, don't they?
Yeah.
And this again, I mean, we come back to a lot of things at the same time. Like obviously, one, letting go and trusting the process.
Yeah.
And also not interfering with other people's. Everyone's got their own soul journey or whatever you want to call it. And all you can do is be an inspiration to others through your own story. And then if other people resonate with that,
that's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's a shame, and it's weird because that could even be down to like your partner, your kids, and it's their life entity.
Yes.
All you can do is say, look, this is me.
Yeah.
This is what I do, and if it works for them.
Yeah. One of the most important lessons I got through my time in the Amazon was the importance of grounding.
All right.
And I remember we were in the temple one day and we were doing like energy exercises, and I didn't realise how often I was out of body. I wasn't grounded.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and I was way up there, and I was doing an exercise with you know, this other lady, and we had to take each other to where we were, and she went, "Oh, I can't go so high, come down." And I went, "What do you mean?" Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, we did like grounding exercises, and I realised that the importance of grounding, and that's something that if you take one thing away from this, make it this one, be grounded. Because if you're not grounded, you can't ground your intentions, so the law of attraction will never work for you.
Interesting.
And so many spiritual people are not grounded, they're not in the body.
Yeah.
And people who have trauma in their life can be out of body because they've left when that trauma actually occurred.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
and we're here to be in the physical. We're so blessed to be here at this time on earth with all these changes that are going on. We signed up for this, guys. We signed up. It's like, enjoy the show. Have you any idea how many billions of souls there are up there that would do anything to change with you right now?
Exactly. Yeah,
we are so blessed to be here.
There's a queue there, isn't there?
Gosh, I won't miss it for anything.
I know, it's fascinating time.
Yeah, and so we're here to help with this shift in consciousness and to stay in the vibration of love.
I agree.
And at the beginning,
to help shift the earth in that respect.
And at the beginning, when all this shit show started, right? You know, I was an activist and I was posting and blah, 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 blah. And I went way down the rabbit hole. A lot of things that I already knew, but were even worse than I'd even anticipated.
Sure.
And I find my vibration dropping. I found my emotional state dropping. I found that it was creating so much polarity with the posts that I was putting out there that it was like not helpful. And I also had the realisation that every time you're focusing on what's going on, you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, because you're creating more of it.
It flows, isn't it? I've become an observer. I was very much like that for a good while.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the rabbit holes, but I don't get attached.
Yeah.
That's
I like to see. I like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't allow myself now to be dragged down, and I don't do any postings. It doesn't affect me
anymore. Whereas before, I was getting angry and upset and stuff. It just is what it is, and it's a show.
Yeah,
that's how I feel now. Anyway,
it's just a play. It's just a drama playing out, and we're all actors in that play.
That's right.
And and it's our job, I believe now, to be part of the solution and to help the people that are waking up.
Yes.
And thinking, what the hell is all this? It's the first,
I think that's a big part of what we're going to be about as well. Is that's why we have guests like yourself on. Really,
just to bring that help knowledge to people. So basically, when they do come across it, they're like, I needed to, because I do believe, like the podcasting that we put together, people will come across them when they need to.
Yeah, of course they will.
They will. Do you know what I mean? And it'll be just like, that resonates for me. I needed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And it's about part of the journey, isn't it? You've got to go through certain things to have the realizations for yourself. Yeah. Not about somebody telling you what to do. Exactly. You've got to go through the journey yourself.
Yeah, but and there's a lot of safety sometimes in knowing that someone else has already been there, gone through it, come out the other side. And what I think is, I might be right or wrong, but I think we are going through the next couple of years where a lot of people are going to be waking up very quickly.
Yes.
And a lot of people are going to be very panicking.
They'll be frightened.
And they'll be looking for information.
Yes.
They'll be like, where do I go? Where do I go? So for me, when all these little communities like ourselves are all popping up everywhere, these are going to be like little hubs where people can say,
I'm not mad.
What's
I'm not
on?
mad.
Yeah.
And there's a way out. It's like we wear shows and we walk that path so that we can shortcut that path for other people to come through. Yeah. It's like my divorce story helps so many people because they don't realise that you can actually have a conscious divorce, a conscious uncoupling. I made a conscious decision to be his friend and her friend, and we became an extended family, right, with no animosity. And people don't have that in their model of the world. So when they see somebody else who's done it, it opens up a new possibility.
It does,
and so for me, it's about opening up new possibilities for people.
It's a very lovely way to be.
Can I ask about the grounding experience then? Because I think that we are electronic, magnetic beings as such, and we need that earthing. And we're talking earthing when you're saying grounding. I remember, because when I was going through my self-healing process last year after I lost the pub, and I was a bit flighty. I was almost like, I thought I was going a bit crazy because I could see the matrix breaking up in front of me, in effect, and I thought I was going nuts. But what I found was I went to Carry On Camping, which is an Awaken festival, and I spent a lot of time in bare feet.
Yeah.
And literally changed me so much just those 2 or 3 days, just being in bare feet on grass.
Yes, it does.
The importance of that.
Yeah, and it's like the negative ions that you're getting from the earth, and that's one of the reasons that I wear this.
Hence that,
this is an ion shield. It's it emits 60 million negative ions, so it's like you're walking around in nature all day.
Yeah.
And it forms like a 3-foot barrier around you. So if there's anything that's coming into your field that's not helpful for you, the negative ions attach to those things and pull them down, so you're not actually inhaling them. So it's like wearing an electronic mask. Right. I wore it on the plane when I went to Italy recently, for that protection. As well as my essential oils. And but I can do events, wear this and be as fresh as a daisy at the end of that event without feeling tired at all.
Superb. Yeah. Well, I've got one myself, actually. I've not got it on today, but yeah. Fantastic. You'll have to, when we're ready for it, you'll have to tell us all about this kit that you've got.
Yeah, well, being in the Amazon, really opened me up. My experiences with the cacao, with the ayahuasca, we also work with other plant medicines for clearing the blood, like cat's claw and, things like that. So we work with 5 different plant medicines in the Amazon, not just ayahuasca. So it was like having a complete reset of the body.
Yeah.
And that I'll try and cut short my Peruvian adventures, because I actually ended up, I'd got a 3-month visa when I went to Peru. I went to Machu Picchu, which was like a dream come true, like just better than I could ever imagine.
Wow.
And I always remember I was there for sunrise about 5:30 a.m. And the tears just streamed down my face. It was like, oh, I'm here at last. You know, I'm home. You know, it was
Fantastic.
Just amazing. And I was in Peru for 3 months. My visa ran out, so I went to Bolivia on a visa run, and I went to Lake Titicaca, and I went to the Island of the Sun, Island of the Moon, and I did a trip around uni, Salt Flats, and, you know, the national park, which was amazing. After 5 weeks of being in Bolivia, I went back to Peru and I asked for a 6-month visa, which is the maximum that they'll give you. And just had the most incredible adventures. But a piece that I missed out that I've not told you yet is, you know, when I got this lump sum from the sale of my house, I lost it in a financial thing that went pear-shaped.
Oh, no.
And so when I went to Peru, I didn't have any money.
Gosh.
It's like I only had enough to pay for the retreat in Machu Picchu, and my sister had lent me £1,000. And the rest of the time, I was just manifesting as I went round, and I was living on like $5 a day.
Wow.
And, you know, just having the most magical experiences. Now, had I have had that investment money from my house, I wouldn't have had the adventures that I'd had in Peru. And I wouldn't have then built that knowledge in myself that I can create at any moment. Wow. So everything, there's always a purpose for it.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Always. And I didn't have an attachment to the money. It's like, well, that was a daft thing to do. I shouldn't have put all my eggs in one basket. I knew that, but I thought I was only doing like a short-term thing whilst I was in France, and by the time I came back, things had gone wrong.
Wow.
So I didn't have any money, but I was manifesting as I went round. Right, and so we don't need money to have experiences.
Definitely,
and people put too much emphasis on I can't do this because of this, that, and the other. Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
you can do whatever you want.
Proven.
You can do whatever you want. So, anyway, I came back to the UK, and I moved in with my fella Paul. You know, we'd been in a relationship before I went to Peru, and I moved in with him. And then I came across, we were offering free hugs at the yoga show in Manchester, the Om Yoga show.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I came across the essential oils. My friend had an essential oil stand there, and she gave me a peppermint experience. Remember we did at the beginning?
Yeah.
Do you want another one?
Yeah.
I could do with another perk up now. So, and this is what she did. She just put one drop. Oh, you've got two there. I'll take a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Just do one drop of oil. And for essential oil safety, you never get essential oils in the eyes, in the ears, or up the nose. And I do that so you remember the actions. So just rub your palms across. Hold your hands like this. And then bring it up and close your eyes. It is strong. And deeply inhale. And that gives me that pep up.
It's great, eh?
Yeah, that peppermint experience. So this is what she did with me at the essential oil show. And then you can suck it up. Don't do this at home, by the way, unless you've got therapeutic food grade oils that are certified. So otherwise it's dangerous to ingest oils. And then I'm just going to rub that on the back of my neck and just on my forehead.
Cool.
So that was my first introduction.
So nice down the
essential oils. Apart from when I was in the Amazon and I was using the citronella oil for insect protection, you know, against the mosquitoes when we're in ceremony.
Yeah.
And so I could feel that one drop of peppermint working for like 2 hours. And I went, wow, what's this? And I kept going back to the stand saying, what else have you got then? What else can I try? And she gave me the deep blue oil. I had sore knees because I did a lot of mountaineering when I was in Peru, a lot of walking.
Yeah.
And I put this on my knees and all the pain went away. and they were, you know, a lot more flexible, which was amazing. And
why does it work that then, Deborah?
Well, essential oils are plant medicines.
All right, okay. Okay.
So that's the connection really with Peru.
The frequencies themselves?
The very high frequency are essential oils. They're one of the highest frequencies of anything on the planet. So rose essential oil, for example, is at the frequency of 320 hertz,
right,
which is the highest vibration of anything on the planet.
Okay.
And so we can use essential oils for raising our vibration.
Yeah.
Frankincense is an amazing oil. You know, like they use this, it's referenced in the Bible, you know, gold, frankincense and myrrh. You know, it's in it, and they say if in doubt, use frankincense. Incredible oil, especially for cellular support.
Interesting.
Lavender, that's 118 megahertz. You know, very, very high vibration. So because I'm into energy and frequency and vibration and quantum physics.
Yeah.
It just made sense for me to, and this little voice in my head kept saying, buy a set of oils. This other voice was saying, don't be so daft, Deborah, you owe Paul 500 quid that he lent you for flying home. You know, you can't be spending money that you haven't got. You haven't got anything. I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
I didn't have an income. I had no savings. I owed money. And this voice is saying, buy a set of oils. And the cheapest set was 115 quid. So I thought, I've got to do it. So I just bought the oils. And then I broke my rib and I used the deep blue for my pain relief. That was all I used. And then I started realising, making the connection between essential oils, plant medicines, energy, frequency.
Okay, so this was your education into this side of things then?
Yeah, and that led me all down that path of, because I'm always into natural alternatives anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to be putting pharmaceuticals in my body. There is a place for them. I'm not anti-medication by any means.
Yeah.
And we've got to work with doctors for diagnosis and things like this.
Yeah.
I'd gone to the hospital and they wanted me to take paracetamol and cocodamol and ibuprofen for my broken rib. And I just said, no, it's okay, I'll do it myself. They said, no, you have to take this medication. And I said, why? And they said, because if you don't, it can lead to pleurisy. And I said, really? Why? How can that lead to pleurisy? They said, because it's so painful when you're breathing that you lead to shallow breathing, which then leads to the pleurisy.
Interesting.
So I said, I'm so glad I came to see you. I won't need the prescription. I'll use my essential oils and I'll do some deep breathing exercises.
So you learn the reason why, and therefore you were able to tackle it yourself naturally.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I like that.
But it's important to know the reason why they're wanting to give you things, so that you're aware, and you're not just making a decision based on what you don't know.
Because you should.
What you don't know. And so working with essential oils then became a really big part of my life. And at that time, I didn't have a car, I didn't have any money, and I was going everywhere on the bus or the train. I was teaching essential oil classes. And then I said to Spirit, I said, look, if you want me to work with these oils, I need a car now. And then within a week, my nephew phoned me up and he said, Auntie Deborah, he said, do you know that money I owe you? Because he'd owed me money for ages. He said, I haven't got any money to pay you back. He said, but I can't afford to run my car and I've got a works van now. He said, like, if I give you this car, can we call it quits? And I said, okay, yeah, that could work. I said, give me some details on the car. And I phoned the garage up who'd had his car, and I said, what's it like? And they said, well, it's been a typical builder's car. It's full of plaster dust. He said, but it's in a pretty shoddy state, but the engine's good on it. And I knew that if I saw it, I wouldn't have it. But I'd asked for this car and it had been delivered. So I taxed and insured it, got my dad to take me up to pick it up, and I was horrified because it was full of green mould. Right. And I'd booked it in to have it valeted because I knew that it would need, looking after. Yeah. And blessing the guy who was doing the valeting, he'd quoted me 45 quid and he had to do it twice, but he still only charged me 45 quid.
Oh, bless him.
I know. But that car was then, gave me mobility.
Yeah. Well, you asked for it.
I asked for it. Yeah, and one of the things is don't be attached to how it shows up. Don't be specific, because sometimes it can appear in better ways than you ever thought. how. And so, essential oils became a big part of my life. And then at the start of lockdown, I think it was March 2020, weren't it? World travel had stopped, and people were sort of at home. And my ex-husband sadly had passed away. And then a friend sent me a video on some frequency technology. And there again, I got that tingle down my back and my intuition saying you need to buy one of these. And oh God, here we go. No money again, like got credit cards. So I spent $2,500 on my Healy frequency technology.
Okay.
Not knowing, what I'm going to do with this. And then this led into a global business for me. And I realised the power of because it's using radionics, and it works in conjunction with an app on my phone. And so I can create a client record in there and do a scan of their energy field, no matter where they are in the world. I just need photo, name, address, date of birth, and it will locate them in the quantum field.
Oh my word.
And so I ended up doing quantum frequency sessions for people.
Interesting.
And then building a team of practitioners who were using it in their practice. And then I developed training for practitioners, teaching them the methodology that I'd done myself, to learn how to use this. Then, some new technology came out. So this is using 3 types of technology. It's using microcurrent technology. So when we hook it up to the wristbands and electrodes, these just plug into the bottom of here. We're delivering microcurrents to the cells, which reverses the aging process. It increases the cell membrane potential. Because we're electric beings, what happens is that over time, our cell capacity reduces. So if you imagine you've got a battery, and if you keep recharging that battery over time, it loses its capacity, and in the end, it dies. And we're the same. Our cells are like batteries.
That's right, yeah.
And so what this does, it helps to reverse that process and to fill the charge and to extend the charge. So it's increasing like that, and we're delivering packets of frequencies to the cells.
It's interesting because the only thing that dies really is matter, isn't it? That's the only thing that ages and dies is matter.
Yeah.
Don't get attached to matter.
That's right.
If that reverses your cell, like you say, because that's where the battery cell in a mobile phone or cell phone, that's where they get the name from. It's a battery, isn't it?
It is a battery. And then using the device remotely is using radionics technology. Because with radionics, it's non-location specific.
Right.
So it doesn't matter where anybody is in the world, because there is no separation in time and space.
This is where the eggs go out. Hold on a minute.
Everything's happening in the now. There is no,
exactly.
yesterday, tomorrow. We only have the moment of now.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. And then this is a coil. So this was developed after I bought this, and this just plugs in. And this is 2 like Tesla coils together, which form 0 point energy. And this just plugs in. And then I can just wear this, on the body and run frequency programs. And so working with frequencies is incredible because it's really helping us to raise our vibration and working with consciousness. So I've been working with the Healy technology. And then I started to get some lumps under my left breast. And it's one of them, it just started off as like a little red lump, and it looked like an insect bite. I thought, well, I don't know how I've been bitten there. But then it started to get bigger and to spread, and then 1 turned to 2, then 2 turned to 3, and I just thought, I need a new tool here for my toolkit, and I set the intention for the right piece of kit to come to me. And this is when I came across the Iteracare device.
Right, okay.
The wand.
Yeah.
And I bought the Iteracare. I'd seen some of the leaders in the Healy community talking about it.
Yeah.
And I bought one. And within a week of using it, the lumps that I'd had for 3-4 months completely disappeared.
Wow. Amazing.
And my dad's always my guinea pig when I get anything new. He has like chronic pain, and so with the Healy device, I can bring his pain down in like an hour, running an hour's program. Mm-hmm. But with this is like something else. This is like within instant. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he can't use this because he hasn't got a smartphone and he's not technologically minded.
Yeah.
But he can use this because you just plug it in and blow it.
Yeah, you just point and blow,
Just point and blow. Very, very easy to use. And this is working on the terahertz gap frequencies, which are the same frequencies as human cells. So unlike the Healy or the Rive equipment where you've got to get the right frequencies for the right thing, this is just working on terahertz gap frequencies. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to worry about matching anything. So anybody can use it, from newborn babies up to really old people, animals.
Who's come up with this invention or this?
The terahertz technology was developed, I think it's in Japan and China. You know, they have like laboratories and engineers that have worked on this equipment. But it's always been out of the range financially for Joe Public because there were thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. The technology's been around a long time. It's actually used now in airports instead of X-ray equipment because it's not harmful to human cells, whereas X-ray is.
Right.
So, you know, like when you meet people who do like sound frequencies and bowl frequency healing, is it that same type of thing but in an electronic device?
Well, everything is frequency.
Yeah.
Everything has a different frequency.
Yeah.
So sound bowls will give off like you've got them tuned to different hertz.
Yeah, for your different chakras.
Yeah. But this is different because it's working on the terahertz gap frequency. So the terahertz range sits between microwave and infrared, and the terahertz gap is like a sweet spot, which is the one which is really beneficial for our health.
So is it a frequency what's predominantly for healing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a healing frequency.
Yeah.
So and
it's been referred to as God's wave band. And, you know, like some scientists have referred to it as the wand of light and, you know, and it's actually working on the principle of delivering heating the cells, heating the body by up to 1 degree, which stimulates the body's own response to heal itself. Okay. So it's not marketed as a medical device. Yeah. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, if you can find a way to heat the bones, you can treat all disease.
So does it generate or regenerate stem cells in that respect? Because you
can blow up and down the spine for 15 minutes, and that's supposed to stimulate the stem cells, which then go to wherever is needed in the body the most for regeneration.
And people pay a lot of money for stem cell therapy.
Oh gosh,
is this something you do to yourself, or do you have to go and have a?
No, you can do it for yourself.
So you can buy it, and so where does it work? Because I've not seen it. So do you hold it like near the place where you've got pain, or do you just have it on in the room? Or
there's different protocols. I'll show you. This is the classic model. This is the classic 2.0. Some people have the 1.0. There's just a few design changes. So simply
just for people listening who are not watching on video, but I recommend have a look on the video if you get a chance. So it's basically a bit like what it looks like a hairdryer.
It does look like a hairdryer, It does look like a hairdryer, and you can use it for drying your hair.
There you go, it's a bonus.
And it's not emitting the harmful frequencies that hairdryers do.
Yeah.
So it's actually emitting positive frequencies. So you simply plug it in and blow it. It's got 3 settings on it.
I wouldn't recommend.
We won't do it because of the noise.
I wouldn't recommend blowing up an airbed. My missus did that when I was out one night.
She didn't.
Thankfully, it overheated, but worked the following day. I was like, "You used it for the airbed?"
Oh my god!
I'm not gonna say nothing to that.
No, don't say anything. I didn't say that. Cool.
Oh my days.
Yeah, so you simply plug it in and blow. There are some guidelines, and one of the things that we do first of all is drink charged water.
Yeah, okay. See, the water's important, isn't it?
So where do we get charged water?
So we get a glass container.
Yeah.
So it wants to be glass, never plastic, not metal, because metal doesn't hold the frequencies. It will penetrate through the glass because the terahertz frequencies penetrate inorganic material. So this is why you can blow with your clothes on. You don't have to take your clothes off. You can blow it through the glass, or you can take the top off and blow from the top onto the water, and it creates structured water.
Debra, before we get to the structured water, can I also mention about the fact that really it should be filtered water as well, not
absolutely.
tap water?
Oh God, no! Don't drink tap water ever. If you're drinking tap water, the first thing you should do is buy a filter, because our bodies are made up of so much water that if you put in the tap water in there, and you're wanting to improve your health, that's the number one that you should change.
Start there, really, yeah. And I think also for anyone who wants to go on a spiritual path to try and break down the calcification of your pineal gland, get rid of that fluoridated water. You don't drink it.
Definitely.
But I need to do this.
But yeah, structured water. Now, I only came across the term structured water, I think, in the past 2 years. I'd never heard of it before, and never realised actually we're generally drinking flat water that does nothing for you.
Yeah, dead water.
And I didn't know this. So how does this work then? Structured? How does it? Because normally structured water would be, say, in a stream with the rocks, and it's filtered that way and structured. I don't really fully understand it, but
let's go back to what water is if we're drinking it normally, right, without it being structured. What happens is water molecules stick together, so they're in clusters. So people can drink a lot of water but still be chronically dehydrated because those clusters aren't able to get into the cells. So when you structure the water, it creates a linear chain. So those water molecules are like lined up, and we're putting the frequencies inside the water, which then goes directly inside the cells. So the water is part of the treatment, because the water hydrates the body. When you're working with frequencies, it's important to drink lots of water, otherwise you can get headaches. So you've got to drink water beforehand. When you're actually doing a treatment on yourself, and say for example I've got a sore knee and I'm blowing my knee, and I might go up here, and I go wherever I feel drawn to do it. Well, then you don't whilst you're doing that, it's releasing toxicity from within the cells. So drinking the water after a treatment is so important to flush those toxins out.
Get you. Yeah, so it's the protocol before and after. Yeah,
so if somebody is really ill and they've been on long-term medication, it's better for them just to start off on the structured water for a couple of weeks, because that can just have a detoxification effect in itself.
Right.
Otherwise, people can detox too quickly and then have a Herxheimer reaction with the body being flooded with toxins, and then they feel really ill and they say, this isn't working. But it is working because it's detoxifying the body, and you need to get the toxins out in order to heal.
Yes, and people start feeling ill, they start panicking then, don't they? And not realise it's actually part of the process.
Yeah, so they've got to understand that sometimes you've got to feel worse before you feel better. But if you go gently and start gently, you don't have that rush of toxins being eliminated, and so you've got a more gentle detox.
Get you. Yeah.
And it's like anything, like if you're ill, you've got to look at what's the root cause of that. You don't suddenly get ill, it tends to accumulate as a build-up of toxicity within the cells.
Yeah.
And so doing like a regular protocol for removing those toxins is really good.
Yeah.
I do a protocol with the oils and with supplements, to detox.
For yourself every day, or?
No, I used to do it every 6 months without fail.
Yeah.
I've just started again this month. And so, I got off track for a couple of years when all the...
Of course.
the stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And I also find myself comfort eating as well.
Yeah, I must admit that we've talked about this. One of my biggest, because I started, like I said, looking after myself a bit more last year when I started looking at myself, bringing in some self-love. That's what I was. But I started fasting. Not a lot. I do intermittent, but and I'm not the best because I don't have an addictive personality generally. But when it comes to an addiction, it's food. I love food. But then you realise that we eat too much.
Yeah.
We talk this 3-4 meals a day nonsense, and it's too much, and it's actually having a complete negative effect. You don't need to eat.
Yeah.
Really.
Just to throw a few questions out there, Deborah. So how long have you been into the iTerra wand? What is the overall benefits like? What's the results you've seen people have? Because I believe, like, obviously, people can buy these and do it on themselves, or they can even do it as a business and help other people and treatments and things like that. Is there any sort of certificates that you have to have with it, or any training you have to have it with it, or?
It's really easy to use, and it's because it's like a hot air blower. It's not a medical device. There's no special training required. You just need to know the contraindications. So, for example, if anybody has any, when you're born as a baby, you've not got anything unnatural in your body, have you?
No, that's right.
But then people get fillings, and some people have hip replacements, or they have implants, and they might have a titanium knee, or they might have a screw,
or injections,
or, whatever. And so, like, when you just avoid those areas. If somebody's got a pacemaker, it's not recommended that they use it.
So like metal's an issue, isn't it? Like the like mercury in
anything
your
that you weren't born with.
Yeah. So
that's the easiest way of remembering it. Anything that you weren't born with. Yeah. And like, if you apply heat to metal, it expands, and so you don't want to cause any problems in that area. There are people that do use it, but it's not recommended. That they, it's not recommended by the company that they do that. Also, pregnancy, you should never use anything during pregnancy because nothing's tested. You don't know what the effect is on the unborn baby. Also, menstruation, because this is improving blood flow and blood circulation. So you don't want to do that whilst you're menstruating, otherwise it'll lead to a heavier flow. Open wounds and fractures, you need to get those sorted first. You don't want to, if you've got an open wound, you don't want to be blowing because it'll increase the blood flow. And you want that to heal up. Fractures, it's not going to mend a broken bone. You've got to get that set, and then you can apply it. So and also acute diseases. If you're having a heart attack, you need emergency treatment. You don't get your wand out and start blowing. You get an ambulance.
So what kind of people or medical conditions have you seen, like, results with it with? What kind of people are using it, like arthritis?
My dad has chronic pain. I bought him his own because he can just plug in and blow that himself and wand his water, and that helps. I've gave them to my daughter and my son. One morning my daughter woke up, she had chronic cystitis. She was running to the loo about 30 times in an hour. She was in a lot of pain. And then she remembered that I'd given her the Iterica, and she just focused on abdominal area for 10 minutes. It completely cleared up.
Wow.
That quickly. And she didn't even drink the water because she had to get out for work. So those are personal experiences. I mentioned about the thing. Also, like, I used it last week. I run a house and pet sitting business now, and so I'm still a nomad. I still don't have a house, and I'd taken the dogs for a walk, and I think I'd been sitting at the table and I had my feet in a funny position, like bent backwards, and I'd done something to my big toe. So when I was walking the dogs, it was really painful. And so I was walking without putting my toe to the floor. So when I got back, I just did this for only 5 minutes and it completely went away.
Well, I did a testimonial on another YouTube channel of ours. And when I got the one, obviously came through yourself, didn't it? And I thought, I'm going to go and test it because I needed some proof for myself, I mean, I bought it initially for my partner who's got health conditions, but I thought, right, let's go and try it. And one of the ladies, she couldn't, her hands were like clawed, and she couldn't open her hands, and then she had a lot of pain in her toes as well. And I think after half an hour she was like that, and she was stood on her toes, and she's like, I can't believe this. And I got it on video, and I'm just like, what's going on? Can't believe this. And she bought one herself.
I did a health miller at Preston at UCLan a couple of weeks ago, and I was doing free taster sessions for people, just 10-15 minutes. I had 3 ones there, and I was just letting people do themselves. I wasn't doing it for them. But I was getting them to fill in a client form and looking at what pain level is now and then what it is after and getting feedback. And, you know, they were all having amazing pain relief. And there was one lady, she was in like 8 out of 10 pain. She's like that every day. Completely disappeared just in 15 minutes.
Just going a little bit more into the iTerra. Is it called iTerra?
iTerra Care.
iTerra Care. So I'm just looking here. Obviously, a business opportunity. So people could actually become authorised distributors of the actual wand as well. So we'll put all that details on Corey if people.
Yeah. There's a big demand for them. Like when I first saw the testimonials, I thought this is too good to be true, and so I wanted to get my own experience of it. So I was offering taster sessions for people just to get feedback, you know, on a whole range of different people, different ages, different conditions, and everyone was like having a really positive experience with it. So that built my confidence up, because I had no intentions of selling these when I got mine. I just bought it because I had lumps and I wanted to do something about it, and I wanted to help my family. But then it's like, when you find something that's so good, how can you not share it with other people?
But the thing is as well, if you because it's work for yourself, you feel more confident promoting it or telling someone else about it then, don't you? Like, you know, you wouldn't really want to... I wouldn't like to be a salesperson of something that I didn't believe in.
I couldn't do that.
No, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that you've used it firsthand and you said, look, this is fantastic, you've showed people and given them samples, so then you're quite happy then to say, look, okay, it costs X amount of money, but boom, you can use it for yourself, which is, it's going to pay for itself just on helping people in your own household. But then if people were looking for, I don't know, adding to their holistical businesses or even starting up a new business, or, you know, because a lot of people, when they go on spiritual journeys, they're like, I want to do this for a living. I want to quit my job, but this might just be another little avenue for people.
It is. It can bring in an additional revenue, and you know, I think we need to be looking now at multiple revenue streams rather than one.
Multiple sources of income. Tony
Yeah,
Robbins,
absolutely.
But also as well, because we were just talking, because we had a guest just knock on the door there. But things like chiropractors and physiotherapists, these are little things that they could add to their business, which would be fantastic to offer their clients.
Yeah.
But then also they could say to the clients, look, you can buy this as well. So then they could even become a distributor as well.
I do have physiotherapists on my team, and what she does is she uses this for 10-15 minutes at the start of a treatment, because it's penetrating deep into the tissue. And so what it's doing is releasing that tension in the tissue, so that when she does her work, it's more effective. Yeah. So it's a win-win. So the client benefits and she gets better results for her clients. And then some of her clients are so impressed they want to buy the equipment. So in order to be a distributor, you just have to buy one yourself, and then you've got a back office. If you buy as a customer, you know, you've got a back office, unless you buy directly from a distributor who's not set you up with one. I just want to give a word of warning though, because there are lots of copycats out there on the market. It's like with any technology, it doesn't take long for the copies to come. And it's dangerous to buy other ones that you don't know about, because you don't know what frequencies they're emitting. This is working in the terahertz gap frequencies. They're all tested, you know, we're confident in the technology. It's using, this has got a crystal tube in it as well. So the crystal tube is amplifying the frequencies that are being generated. And it's also using scalar wave technology as well. So the copies don't have the crystal tube, and they're not using the scalar wave. They're emitting hot air. They might have some terahertz frequencies in there. We don't know what. But it's not the same thing.
Stay clear of cheap
we can't buy these on Amazon or Alibaba. We're not allowed to sell them on those platforms. You can only buy them from authorised distributors. And fortunately, we do have distribution centre now in the UK. So what we do is we help the customer with the order process. We place the order for them in our back office, which goes directly to the company. We select whichever stockist we want to fulfil that order, because we can fulfil worldwide. So if somebody in Australia wanted one, for example, we just select the Australian shippist, And then it's fulfilled and shipped directly to the customer. And the price includes VAT, it includes import tax, it includes shipping. And at the moment, these are $450, which is round about 365 pounds in the UK, depending on the rate of exchange on the day that you buy.
Very good.
So it's very cost effective now, because it's like people pay more than that for a Dyson hairdryer.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, you know, anyone who's thinking of getting one and having their own business, I got one, and I think I tested it on about 5 or 6 people, and I think 4 of those bought one. So it paid it back.
Yeah.
More.
So once people see the results of it, they're quite happy then to feel like, I'm going to purchase one of them. So
and also when we sell them, we get commission and bonuses, but we also get product points as well. And the product points build up, and then we can swap those points for products. So I got my Iron Shield for free. I got my premium device for free. This is the bigger one, which is $1,350.
Wow.
So this is the premium device.
Oh, looks like a Luke Skywalker one, that one.
Yeah, I love this one. But I got this free with my product points.
That's when you become a Jedi now.
I was going to say, is that for the Masters? Jedi.
Yeah, and then there is a bigger one called the Professional, which is 4,500. Wow. So I'm saving my points up now for that one.
And will you try and get on one of them as well?
I'm not that far off on my points, so yeah.
So do you tend to do that as an income and a living as well?
Yeah.
Do you have a room where people come for treatment, or do you? Because you can do it distant as well, can't you, or something?
You can do, yeah.
Well, can you?
You can, yeah. Because it's using the scalar wave technology.
Oh, really?
It does work with distance, yeah. They've Ricky Brandino and John Scavola have done experiments. They've got these aura things that you hold in your hand, and they've done experiments. It can penetrate walls. It can, you can wand photographs, and you can even structure water remotely as well.
Really?
It's mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's far more powerful than I even thought at the beginning. We're learning more about it all the time.
So just going back, did you have like a room where people come for a treatment? Or
no, because I don't have a house.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I'm a nomad.
Sorry. Yeah. So do you travel to people and give them the treatment?
No, I don't offer treatments. I do events. I'm invited to speak at events, like I did one for an organisation called Smile recently, of chronic pain sufferers. Right. So I'll go there, do a talk, I'll take wands with me. What I do is I go to my family and say, can I have those wands back for the day while I go and lend them out to people to try. Yeah. So at that event I had like 7 wands, and so I'd rather do events where I'm reaching more people.
Yeah. That's a fantastic idea.
But I've got a big team now, and I support my team.
So if someone was doing it from, say, like for a business opportunity, how much could they look to make if they sold a wand?
It's like, how long's a piece of string? There's no limit on it. Ricky, who, 14 months ago, he was on food stamps, penniless. He was like really, really struggling. He's on like 45,000 a month now.
A month?
A month.
A month, yeah.
£45,000 a month?
Yeah,
but selling the ones?
Yeah, but what he says is he got married to his business. That is his focus, and that is what he does all the time. So he's built a massive team. And so, if you want to put the energy and the attention and the focus into it, the sky's the limit. With me, I'm more laid back. I'm not, in that energy of like wanting to conquer the world. It's like, I want to do my bit.
But it's easier to sell a product if you believe in it, and it's fantastic.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is the easiest thing I've ever sold in my whole life. I find this easier to sell than 1 bottle of essential oil.
Right.
Seriously?
Well, yeah, because I can imagine if someone's at home and they've got chronic pain, like back pain or knee joints or whatever, they try anything, wouldn't they?
Well, I can only go off my own personal recommendation. Like, Lou, she has health issues. Every 3 days, she's on fentanyl, Lou, and every 3 days she goes into withdrawal if she doesn't change a patch in time. Sometimes she doesn't get much of a warning either. So her muscles will just go into spasm, and it's very painful for her. And I'll wander for 20 minutes and it'll calm everything down very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and she'll be able to sleep then and rest.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a godsend.
I love to, I keep one plugged in the kitchen so that every time, I've got a carafe of filtered water, I'll wand that, and then when that's empty, when we've finished drinking that, I'll just refill it from the filter, wand it, and then, so I just do that all the time. You wand your food as well,
can't you? Put the frequencies into food.
Into food.
How long, like?
Well, with the water, it's only a couple of minutes, isn't it?
It's not even that. Between 30 seconds to a minute maximum, depending on the quantity.
Because I do my distiller. I distill my water. I don't have a filter. I distill my water and I put my minerals in there and everything else. And then I'll wand that for like 2-3 minutes. And
you don't even need that long.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just 60 seconds. And you can use a pendulum to test it.
Oh, I've not tried anything like that. That's
it's amazing. I can show you if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to see that,
Get my...
So we might be offering very soon on the Drake Michigan website business opportunities. So if people want to sort of make a few quid on the side.
Absolutely, but if you're helping people and making money, is there anything better than that?
Well, a lot of people have got a hang up about making money, and why should you have a hang up about making money? We can't do everything for free. We've got to live at the end. We do.
It's energy.
It is energy. So this is my pendulum. This is water that I've already wandered. Have you got any water that you haven't wandered?
I've not wandered the water in my.
Do you want me to just get a cup of water?
Yeah, well, it's tap water that, isn't it? But can you use?
Don't worry, we can just. I can just show you. Okay, so first of all, I clear the energy off my pendulum and just say show me my yes. So my yes goes round in a circle. Stop. Show me my no. And so my no goes backwards and forwards, right? So, so then you can ask questions, and I can say, is this water wandered? Yes. Show me the strength of how this is wandered. How much energy is in there? Look at that. So when you're actually doing your distilled water, you can test it after 15 seconds, after 10 seconds, after 30 seconds, and see what response you're getting. And then you know how long to wander it for. But the other thing is that memory is in water.
Yes, we've talked about that.
So if I was to drink, say, down to here, and then put a load of filtered water back up in it, and then give it a shake, it will be structured.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can test it again after that.
Oh, that's interesting. The magic of water is because I think we should do a piece on Dr. Emoto.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Just incredible. Water's just wow. Because we are made of pretty much water, aren't we?
We are.
Everything's water. It's Bible. So speaking of water, there's another device at Pry, isn't there? For water.
The Seven Wonders water bottle. I've got one of those as well. I got that free with my points, and that creates hydrogen water.
That's right.
And hydrogen is the smallest molecule, and there's a lot of health benefits to hydrogen water.
Well, I've heard about it. You said you wanted to do that, didn't you?
Yeah, so because I've got one as well, and I religiously will have that in the morning.
Yeah.
So I put it in, and you only leave it in for a little while, don't you? Because there's a filter at the bottom, isn't it, that creates the hydrogen molecules.
It's a cartridge, not a filter.
It's a cartridge, that's right. And then does it, if I'm right, alkaline the water as well? Or am I wrong there?
I can't remember. It does 7 things, which is why it's called the Seven Wonders.
We'll put an image up actually. I'll try and we'll do something about. Or we'll do something on the 7 Wonders, because that's a really fascinating product in itself, because water's so important. Yeah,
but we have some amazing technology available now in the world, and I've just ordered some technology from Malaysia as well, which hopefully I should get in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I want to compare that with what I've got, because I never sell anything before I've tested it out, and I'm confident in it. Yeah. So I'm excited to be trying that out as well, and so it's like
it's amazing.
Let's see what happens.
But it's here for a reason. It's like there's a lot of talk on like med beds and things like that coming, which are going to change the world. But this technology is already available in respect to
here now, and it's affordable.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your plans? Where does Debra see herself going forward? Have you thought that far, or are you just going with the flow?
I go with the flow. I used to plan. I used to set goals religiously. I run a pet sitting business, Hugs House and Pet Sitting Service, which I started when my relationship ended. And I thought, what would be a creative solution to not having enough money to pay rent or get a mortgage? And I had friends who were doing house and pet sitting, and I thought, that's an opportunity.
Yeah, and I bet it's popular, isn't it?
Well, I started off doing it for free, and then I realised that I was actually providing a really valuable service, and all the time that I was spending looking after people's homes and pets was taking away time for me to earn an income online with my essential oils. And so I started charging for my service. And for the first 2 years, I'm in my 6th year now. For my first 2 years, I didn't have a break. I went from one to another to another to another. And it's very successful, and I pick and choose my jobs.
Fantastic.
And I go all over the country, and I just love my life.
It's brilliant, and that's all you can want is that happiness, loving your life.
Yeah, and this year, I've made a conscious choice. I don't want too much work because my focus this year is more on family. My dad's 84. Yeah. So I spent Easter with my family. Lovely. I want to spend Christmas with my family. Yeah. I've booked like more or less 3 weeks off in the summer. My sister's coming over from Australia.
Yeah. And it's great that you're in a position where you can consciously do that.
Yeah.
Because most people's lives, to be fair, by nature are dictated to them.
Yeah.
So I said most people think life happens to you instead of making life happen, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's only when you learn how to swap it round.
That's freedom.
It is. And on Friday I'm going up to York and I'm doing a sit on a farm. So I'm looking after deer, a pony, hens and cats.
Oh my life, that's fantastic.
I've never looked after deer before, so that'll be it.
And because you're doing that and you're busy with that, you can run this business online, so you can just do it on...
Yeah, just run it online. And then I'm into like a few different crypto projects and... I get paid for watching adverts for 15 minutes a day. It's really funny. So I don't have an attachment to money, and like I never put anything into projects like that I can't afford to lose. I class it as play money, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, at least I had some fun doing it.
Yeah. We had someone on the other week, JB, didn't we, who's into like blockchain, which is a bit like crypto, but it's a whole. And I've just put some money into that, and we're going to see how that goes. Because I don't know much about it, but I'm going to take his lead, if you like. Apparently, it's the next big thing, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But he's going to have like a little section into it.
On the website,
so people can follow it, and they can see us lose our money or win some money. So we'll be the guinea pigs.
But we'll put a section on the website. For Debra as well, for the
100%. I think a lot of people will be interested.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm here to be of service and to help and support people to be successful.
And I can only say that Debra is brilliant at that, because I struggle with time, and when I've had inquiries come through, Debra's dealt with it so well, helped me so much.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's been great working with you.
And you.
For me, it's about the more people that know about the technology, the better, because it's helping them to raise their vibration. I'm known as the Frequency Alchemist. I'm a student of alchemy, and alchemy for me is about transforming from one thing to another. Yeah. So we can transform our emotional states, we can transform our vibrational states, we can transform our wealth, we can transform our health.
Yes.
So,
Debra, it's been an absolute pleasure.
It has indeed.
It has been a pleasure meeting you today. Your story has been not what I expected today.
Well, when we have Great Michigan seminars in the future, we know where we're booking, don't we?
Well, hopefully you'll be part of it. Hopefully,
I'd love to. Yeah,
because that's the whole idea. And what we're going to do is we're going to grow the platform to such a point where, as soon as we hold our first workshops and seminars, we've just got all these amazing people in place with a couple of hour slots. So people are just going to be like, oh my God,
that's the plan.
And it'll just be completely sold out. And that's the plan.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
Please subscribe to Drake Michigan on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, click on the bell, the notification bell, subscribe, get on the mailing list.
Go to www.drakemichigan.com.
Because we're going to put some videos out just for people on the mailing list, some extra bonus stuff.
And we can put stuff on about the Italica now as well.
100%.
Yeah, and if you want to connect with me, you'll find me on Facebook, Debra Sofia Magdalene, and it's Debra, and Sophia with an F. I'm also on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel called The Frequency Alchemist. I've also got my Mastery Path YouTube channel.
Well, we'll connect to all that, and we'll put it all in the description as well.
When Anthony does the thing after, he'll make sure all that's there.
Awesome.
We'll try and push everybody your way. All your links, all your YouTube channels, everything. That's the whole idea of the podcast, really, is to really promote people and give them their chance to sort of tell everything.
I'd just like to say thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've really enjoyed talking with you.
We've had a great time.
I think it's been my most enjoyable podcast.
Good, man.
I've loved it.
It's been fantastic. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you for what you're doing in helping to raise awareness in the world, and
we're trying.
It's such an important job. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you. I think it is. I think it's a very important part. And
I just think we're very lucky, to have these amazing conversations.
You asked the universe, give you the platform, and you're going to say it.
I did. I said, give us the platform, and we'll.
And away we go.